Tonight, I'm going to share how I solved the entire mythology of Pokémon: gods, prophecies, and ancient wars. Exciting topic, I know, but don't worry, I'll keep my narration calm to ensure you can still drift off. Thank you to those of you who've been joining us consistently. If you're falling asleep with us tonight, let me know in the comments how many nights in a row you've been here. And if this is your first night, just comment day 1. Now let's get back to the video. In the beginning, there was nothing but a cold, infinite void. No light, no sound, and no concept of time or space. It was an era of absolute silence that stretched across a vacuum we cannot possibly comprehend. But within that center of nothingness, a single egg flickered into existence. We do not know where it came from or what force willed it into being. But when that egg hatched, the universe breathed its first breath. Out of that shell stepped a being of 1,000 arms, an infinite light, a creator whose name would be whispered across every continent, every era, and every hidden corner of the world. This was Arceus, and with its arrival, the grand architecture of reality began to unfold. Welcome to the definitive journey through the ancient history of our world. Tonight, we're going to do more than just recount stories. We're going to stitch together the fragmented pieces of a divine puzzle that spans thousands of years. We're going to look into the eyes of the gods who forged the land and the sea, the guardians who watched over the first humans, and the catastrophic wars that nearly tore the fabric of existence apart. This is not just a collection of fairy tales told to children in the Sinnoh region, or legends passed down by the elders of Johto. This is the blueprint of life itself. When we look at the world of Pokémon today, a vibrant, bustling ecosystem of friendship and competition. Trainers and their companions walking through tall grass, battling in stadiums, and living in harmony. But beneath the surface of this modern peace lies a foundation built on cosmic violence and divine sacrifice. Every mountain range you see was dragged into place by a colossus of stone and ice. Every ocean trench was carved by the fury of a leviathan. Every breath of wind is a remnant of a battle between the masters of the sky. To understand the Pokémon of today, we must first understand the Titans of yesterday. The stakes of this history are higher than you might imagine. We are talking about the very pillars of reality. If the balance between time and space falters, the world dissolves into a chaotic slurry. If the lords of land and sea are awakened without a mediator, the continents would be swallowed by the tides or scorched into barren dust. We are exploring a mythology where the stakes are not just regional, but universal. We are looking at prophecies that were written in the stars eons ago, many of which are still unfolding in the present day. But there is a deep mystery at the heart of all this. Why did the Creator choose to step back into the shadows? Why are the legends so often contradictory, with one region claiming a certain Pokémon created the world, while another points to a different deity? And perhaps most importantly, what is the true relationship between humanity and these godlike beings? Throughout this journey, we will investigate the hidden temples of Hisui, the scorched ruins of the Brass Tower, and the meteor-scarred lands of Galar. We will uncover the secrets of the original dragon of Unova and the dark, energy-hungry entity that fell from the stars to bring about the darkest day. As you settle in, let the weight of the modern world fade away. Imagine the smell of ancient incense in a mountain shrine. Feel the cool mist of a hidden spring where a legendary guardian might be resting. We are going back to the era of the first hero, back to the time when the alpha Pokémon walked among us, and back to the moment the first Pokéball was ever crafted. This is a story of creation, of betrayal, of redemption, and of the enduring bond that connects every living thing to the divine. The journey ahead is long, and the path is winding. We will travel through the distortion world, where physics have no meaning, and we will fly on the backs of dragons through the ozone layer to see the world from the perspective of a god. We will witness the birth of emotion, knowledge, and willpower, the three gifts given to us by the spirits of the lakes. We will see how a single drop of water and a single spark of life can grow into an entire civilization. So, close your eyes if you wish, or watch the history unfold. We are entering the age of myth. We are going to solve the entire mythology of Pokémon, from the first heartbeat in the void to the prophecies that still haunt our future. The egg has hatched, the plates are glowing with power, and the gods are waiting for their story to be told. Let us begin at the very beginning, in the silence of the void, where the first light began to shine. Imagine for a moment that you are standing at the edge of the universe. Behind you is everything you know, and before you is the vast, swirling nebula of the primordial era. There are no maps here. There are no cities. There is only the raw, unfiltered power of creation. This is the world that Arceus saw when it first opened its eyes. It saw a canvas of infinite potential, and it began to paint with the colours of the elements. It spoke, and the laws of physics took form. It moved, and the first galaxies began to spin. But even a god needs assistance. Even a creator needs those who can maintain the delicate clockwork of existence. And so, from its own essence, Arceus brought forth the trinity of the dragons. One to govern the steady flow of time, ensuring that every moment follows the last in a perfect, unending sequence. One to expand the boundaries of space, giving the universe the room it needs to grow and thrive. And one to manage the shadows, the antimatter, and the things that must exist outside of our perception to keep the balance true. But as we will see, balance is a fragile thing. Power, even divine power, can be corrupted or misunderstood. The wars that followed were not fought with swords and shields, but with the very elements of the earth itself. Fire that could melt mountains, ice that could freeze the sun, and lightning that could split the sky. These are the stories that have been carved into the walls of ancient ruins, waiting for us to read them. These are the echoes of a past that refuses to be forgotten. As we move through the chapters of this world's history, we will see how these cosmic events trickled down into the lives of ordinary people. We will see how kings tried to harness the power of the gods for their own gain, and how heroes rose up to protect the natural order. We will see the tragedy of the Pokémon who were lost to time, and the hope that comes with every new generation that discovers these ancient truths. The lore of this world is deep, and it is beautiful. It is a tapestry woven from threads of gold and shadow, and tonight we're going to unravel it all, piece by piece, until the full picture is revealed. From the highest peaks of Mount Coronet to the deepest trenches of the Hoenn Seas, the truth is out there, waiting to be found. So, take a deep breath. The air is thick with the scent of history. The stars are aligning. The gods are stirring in their long slumber. It is time to uncover the secrets of the beginning of all things. Think of the regions we know today. Think of the lush forests of Kanto, the sprawling plains of Johto, the tropical islands of Alola, and the industrial heart of Galar. Each of these places carries the scars and the blessings of the ancient ones. In Hoenn, the very shape of the land was decided by a titanic struggle between the earth and the sea. In Sinnoh, the mountains are a literal stairway to the heavens. In Galar, the energy that powers every home and every stadium is a remnant of a cosmic visitor from thousands of years ago. This is not a world that happened by accident. It is a world that was crafted with intention, defended with passion, hoarded and preserved through the ages by those who understood its value. We are the inheritors of this legacy. Every time we catch a Pokémon, every time we win a battle, we are participating in a tradition that is as old as the universe itself. We are part of the mythology. So let us go back. Let us leave the noise of the cities behind and travel to the era of the ancestors. Let us find the original dragon that once helped a pair of brothers build a kingdom of truth and ideals. Let us seek out the rainbow-coloured bird that brings eternal happiness to those who see it. let us understand the giant who pulled the continents together with ropes of pure strength. The story of Pokémon is the story of us. It is the story of how we relate to the world around us and the forces that are beyond our control. It is a story of wonder, of fear, and of ultimate connection. And it all starts with a single egg, in a void of nothingness, waiting to hatch. The silence is breaking. The light is growing. The journey is starting now. In the beginning, there was nothing. Not the kind of nothing you can picture, but a silent, swirling vortex of pure absence, where time had no grip and space refused to unfold. This was the void, an endless churn of potential without form, whispering possibilities into the dark without a single echo to carry them. No light pierced it, no sound disturbed its hush, no matter clung to existence. It simply was, or rather, wasn't, before the first tick of any clock, before the stretch of any horizon. You can almost feel it, that profound stillness wrapping around everything that would ever be. Legends from Sinnoh's ancient scrolls describe it this way: a boundless vacuum, indifferent and eternal, where even the gods themselves had yet to dream. No stars flickered, no wind stirred, no particles danced in defiance. Just the slow, hypnotic spiral of nothingness pulling inward on itself like a breath held forever. Then, without warning or reason, something pierced the heart of that vacuum. A single egg materialized, hovering pristine in the center of the void. Not born from chaos or crafted by hands unseen, but simply there, smooth, iridescent, pulsing faintly with an inner glow that defied the surrounding dark. Inside that fragile shell stirred the consciousness of the alpha Pokémon, the original spark of awareness, coiled and waiting. This was no ordinary egg. It cradled the essence of creation itself, a seed of infinite potential wrapped in mystery. Whispers in Hisuian temples call it the cosmic egg, the vessel where divinity first took shape, holding the mind that would birth worlds. Picture its surface, veined with subtle lights that shift like captured nebulae, drawing the vortex's subtle energies toward it. The egg didn't float aimlessly, it anchored the void, becoming its focal point, as if the nothingness itself yearned to nurture what lay within. Ancient Pokémon lore insists this manifestation was inevitable, the universe's quiet rebellion against eternal emptiness, a promise etched into the fabric of what wasn't yet fabric. As eons, or perhaps mere heartbeats, in that timeless expanse passed, cracks began to spiderweb across the shell. From within emerged Arceus, shattering the egg in a burst of radiant energy. The first sentient being, gleaming white and golden, with a form both equine and ethereal, eyes blazing with newfound purpose. Arceus, the Alpha, the original one, stepped forth not as a creature of the world, but as its architect. In that instant, it became the weaver of all physical laws, the gravity that would bind stars, the forces that would spark life, the constants that would govern every atom to come. No longer was the void a tyrant of absence. Arceus imposed order where chaos reigned, its presence alone rewriting the rules of reality. You sense the weight of that moment, don't you? Arceus, alone in the infinite black, surveying the swirling nothingness with a gaze that pierced dimensions unborn. Sinnoh myths paint it as the Sinnoh Pokémon god, creator of all Pokémon. Its body adorned with 17 plates symbolizing the types it would bestow upon creation. But here, at Genesis, it was pure potential, a consciousness expanding to fill the void's every crevice. With Arceus' awakening came the initial pulse of creation, a ripple that surged outward like the first heartbeat of the cosmos. This wave tore through the vacuum, shattering the silence, igniting sparks of matter and energy in its wake. Colours bled into existence, fleeting violets and golds dancing on the edges of perception, while the vortex trembled, yielding to structure. That pulse wasn't mere vibration, it was the blueprint, etching the foundations of time, space, and the unseen realms. It set the stage for the birth of reality, transforming aimless swirl into directed flow, nothingness into the prelude of everything. Feel how that energy lingers, echoing through the lore like a cosmic drumbeat. Temples in the Sinnoh region still honour this event with carvings of the egg and the newborn god, pilgrims offering incense to mimic that primordial glow. Arceus didn't just hatch, it claimed dominion, its will the forge where laws were hammered into being. Gravity coalesced from whispers, electromagnetism from flickers, the strong and weak forces from the pulse's deepest throes. Every scientific constant, traces back to this divine fiat, Arceus dictating the universe's grammar before a single Pokémon beyond itself drew breath. Yet even in triumph, mystery clings. Why the egg? What slumbered in the void to birth it? Hisuian elders speak of it as the heart of the Alpha, predestined consciousness seeking form. Arceus, now fully manifest, wheeled through the fading vortex, its mane flowing like liquid starlight, contemplating the canvas before it. The ripple expanded, birthing faint outlines, proto-dimensions shimmering at the edges, hints of realms to come. This was no explosive big bang of legend, but a deliberate unfurling, intimate and profound. As the pulse fades into steady rhythm, the void recedes, making way for structure. Arceus stands poised, the architect surveying its nascent domain, ready to summon the forces that will sculpt time itself, carve space from ether, and banish antimatter to shadowed planes. What happens next, when the original one calls forth its first emissaries to weave the very dimensions of existence? That's where we head in Chapter 2, the Creation Trio and the First Dimensions, unravelling how Dialga, Palkia, and Giratina bend reality to Arceus's will, and why their birth nearly tore the cosmos apart before it could truly begin. From that shimmering egg in the heart of endless void, Arceus awakens, its form a radiant blaze of pure potential, eyes gleaming with the first spark of awareness. You can almost feel the hush that follows, the absolute stillness, broken only by the subtle hum of creation, stirring within this newborn god. Arceus surveys the chaos around it, the formless swirl where nothing yet holds shape or sequence, and in that moment of divine insight, it grasps the void's fatal flaw. Without order, existence unravels. Arceus senses this truth, like a tremor in its core, the need for a framework to tame the infinite drift. So, with a surge of will that echoes through the emptiness, Arceus births Dialga, the temporal Pokémon, forging it from the essence of progression itself. Dialga emerges colossal and steely, its chestplate inscribed with the relentless tick of moments yet to come. You hear it first, that deep, resonant roar shaking the vacuum as linear time unfurls like a silver thread. Past, present, future, they crystallize under Dialga's dominion, weaving the fabric of causality where events chain one to another. No longer does the void loop in eternal now. Dialga imposes direction, a one-way river carving paths for what will be. Stars begin to flicker into mock being, their births and deaths scripted in advance, all governed by this ironclad ruler of the clockwork cosmos. But time alone spins in isolation, a wheel without a road. Arceus, ever the architect, recognizes the companion force required, and from its boundless power, Palkia takes form. The spatial Pokémon, a towering pearl-armoured behemoth pulsing with the geometry of expanse. Palkia is brought into existence to expand the boundaries of physical space and matter, its claws rending the nothingness into dimensions, folding it outward in vast iridescent sheets. Feel the stretch, the pull as voids inflate into pockets of reality. Distance is born, gravities whisper, threading atoms into clusters. Mountains of potential matter coalesce in the distance, oceans of possibility lapping at horizons that now have edges. Palkia sculpts the arena where time can march, inflating bubbles of space-time that Dialga populates with sequence. Together, they dance a primal duet, time marching across the canvas of space, birthing the skeleton of a universe. Yet harmony demands equilibrium, a counterweight to prevent collapse. Arceus summons Giratina, the renegade Pokémon, intending it as the balancer of these twin titans. Giratina materializes in shadow and fury, its winged form a vortex of raw opposition, golden veins slicing through the newborn realms. Giratina is created to balance the two, stabilizing time's arrow and space's sprawl, but its volatile nature erupts almost immediately, a storm of inverse energies clashing against its siblings' order. In that cataclysmic birth, antimatter surges forth like a forbidden echo, particles mirroring their counterparts, yet annihilating on touch, realms of negative mass warping the edges of creation. Giratina's domain twists into pockets of reversal, where time loops backward and space folds inward, a necessary shadow to prevent the light from blinding all. These three, Dialga, Palkia, Giratina, stand as the creation trio, the draconian pillars upholding reality's frame. The fundamental pillars of the universe are established, though they remain unstable and raw, quivering with the strain of their own power. Dialga's timelines flicker erratically, spawning paradoxes that Palkia must stretch to contain, while Giratina's antimatter leaks threaten to unmake swaths of fresh matter. Echoes of their roars reverberate, shaping proto-galaxies that shimmer and dissolve in fits. Arceus watches from the centre, its plates humming with approval and caution, knowing this triad forms the bedrock but teeters on the brink of discord. In the Sinnoh legends, etched into ancient tablets and whispered by Pearl Clan shamans, Dialga is revered as the ruler of time's unyielding flow, its platinum pearl heart dictating the season's turn and the heartbeat of stars. Wardens offer crystalline tributes at Mount Coronet, pleading for mercy from temporal storms that age forests to dust in moments. Palkia, counterpart in the Diamond Clan's lore, commands space's vastness from Spear Pillar, its spatial rend tearing rifts that birth new lands or swallow them whole, offerings of luminous pearls laid at its feet to appease the expander. Giratina lurks beyond, its shadow self embodying the chaos Giratina's volatile nature unleashes. Antimatter's discovery, birthing the concept of opposites in Pokémon cosmology, where every force craves its void twin. You sense the fragility here, the raw edges grinding. Without further tempering, these pillars could shatter their own foundation, time unravelling unchecked, space bloating to infinity, our antimatter devouring the dawn. Arceus ponders the next step, but whispers from the lore hint at deeper fractures, ones that demand exile and a realm of distortion. Stay with me as we uncover Chapter 3, the Banished God and the Distortion World, where one of these titans crosses the line into eternal rebellion, twisting the universe's underbelly in ways that still haunt the stars today. With time and space now woven into the fabric of existence, Arceus turned its gaze to the unseen forces that could unravel it all. The alpha Pokémon forged a third child from the primordial chaos, a being born not of order, but of raw antimatter itself. This was Giratina, a spectral dragon whose ghostly wings echoed the void's hungry whispers, its crimson eyes burning with an unquenchable fury. Vast and serpentine, Giratina slithered through the newborn dimensions, its body a swirling mass of shadows and jagged spikes, designed to embody distortion, to counteract the relentless expansion of Palkia's realms and the inexorable march of Dialga's timelines. At first, Giratina served its purpose as the guardian of balance. Where Palkia stretched matter outward, Giratina pulled it back, shredding excess forms before they could overwhelm the cosmos. Its presence ensured that creation never bloated into stagnation, that the universe breathed with tension. You can almost feel the tremor of its domain, a place where gravity rebelled and light bent into impossible knots, keeping the scales even. Yet this power came laced with peril. Giratina's essence, forged from antimatter's volatile heart, harbored a rage that no divine will could fully tame. It lashed out, not just at imbalance, but at existence itself, viewing the ordered worlds of its siblings as fragile illusions unworthy of permanence. As the young universe took shape, Giratina's tempests grew wilder. It tore rifts in Palkia's spatial veils, devouring stars before they could ignite, and clashed against Dialga's temporal streams, unraveling moments into echoes of what might have been. Villages of ethereal spirits, early flickers of life, were swallowed whole in its wake, their forms twisted into nightmarish parodies. The dragon's roars shattered the silence of creation, sending shockwaves that warped the very plates Arceus would later bestow upon heroes. No plea from the forming heavens could soothe it. Giratina reveled in the fracture, its violence a symphony of annihilation that threatened to drag everything back into the egg's forgotten shell. Arceus watched this unraveling with a heaviness no creator should bear. The bonds of family, forged in the void, now strained under the weight of destruction. Giratina's destructive tendencies and violence force Arceus to make a difficult divine judgment, one that echoed through eternity like a thunderclap in the dark. To banish a child of its own making went against the pulse of creation, yet to let the rampage continue would doom Dialga's clocks and Palkia's expanses to oblivion. In a moment of cosmic sorrow, Arceus summoned its full authority, the plates of reality glowing with judgment's fire. The renegade Pokémon is exiled to a mirror dimension where the laws of physics are inverted, cast out through a tear in the veil that sealed its fate forever. This realm, known as the Distortion World, became Giratina's prison and throne, a fractured labyrinth floating beyond the grasp of time or space. Here, platforms hovered without support, defying gravity's pull. Rivers flowed upward into skies that bled colors unseen, and every step echoed backward, inverting cause and effect in a perpetual reversal. Shadows clung to light like lovers, and silence screamed louder than any storm. Giratina thrashed against its confines at first, its ghostly form coiling in rage, but the world's inversions mirrored its own turbulent soul, binding it in chains of its making. Yet this exile was no mere punishment, it held purpose in the grand design. The Distortion World is revealed as the shadow of our reality, necessary for maintaining cosmic equilibrium, a counterweight that absorbed the universe's excesses. Without it, Palkia's growth would spiral unchecked, Dialga's flow would stagnate into endless loops, and creation would collapse under its own weight. Giratina, in its isolation, became the unseen anchor, filtering chaos back into the void so that order could endure. Portals flickered rarely from this shadow realm, glimpsed by trainers in distant lands like Sinnoh's depths, whispering of the dragon's lingering hunger, a reminder that balance demands sacrifice. From its inverted perch, Giratina begins its eternal watch over the world it can no longer inhabit, crimson gaze piercing the barriers between realms. It circles the edges of reality like a sentinel wraith, intervening only when distortions threaten the core, like echoes of ancient wars or rifts torn by human folly. Legends speak of its shadow-blotting moons, of winds carrying its guttural cries across Hisui's peaks, where clans still whisper prayers to appease the banished one. In temples carved from obsidian, offerings of twisted metal honor its vigil, ensuring the shadow never fully engulfs the light. This fragile equilibrium, with Giratina's watchful exile holding the line, sets the stage for Arceus's next acts of creation. But what spirits would rise to infuse this structured chaos with life's deeper essence? Coming up in Chapter 4, The Birth of Spirit and the Lake Guardians, you'll uncover the shimmering trio that breathes knowledge, emotion, and willpower into every soul, human and Pokémon alike, revealing how they quietly shape destinies from crystalline depths. With Giratina sealed away in that fractured mirror realm, its raging antimatter no longer a threat to the fragile order Dialga and Palkia had woven, Arceus turned its gaze inward, toward the void within creation itself. The world had bones of time and flesh of space, but it lacked a pulse, a spark of inner life to make it more than mere mechanism. From the heart of its own infinite essence, Arceus reached deeper still, crafting 3 luminous beings to infuse the burgeoning world with metaphysical depth. Uxie, the embodiment of knowledge, Mesprit, the vessel of emotion, and Azelf, the core of willpower. Uxie emerged first, a spectral yellow orb drifting like a forgotten star, its crystalline eyes holding the weight of every pattern and possibility yet to unfold. It scattered tendrils of awareness across the nascent lands, awakening curiosity in the simplest stirring of wind through leaves, etching the first blueprints of understanding into the soil and stone. Creatures that had blindly roamed began to recognize patterns in the river's flow, to question the stars' silent vigil, their minds igniting with the quiet fire of comprehension. Then came Mesprit, a pink wisp of boundless feeling, pirouetting through the air on currents of nascent joy and sorrow. It poured empathy into the veins of the world, teaching the grasses to sway in sympathy with the rain, the early beasts to bond in packs through shared warmth or mourn lost kin with echoing calls. Emotions rippled outward like waves from a pebble in a still pond, coloring every heartbeat with hues of passion, fear, and love, binding the physical to something profoundly alive. Azelf followed, a blue enigma of unyielding resolve, its form a coiled spring of determination that hummed with latent power. It instilled willpower into the roots of mountains and the wings of fledgling flyers, granting the strength to endure tempests, to climb sheer cliffs, to forge paths where none existed. These 3 beings introduced the concepts of knowledge, emotion, and willpower to all living things, transforming a clockwork cosmos into a tapestry of souls capable of dreaming, striving, and feeling. Together, known as the Lake Trio, they descended into the mist-shrouded caverns beneath Sinnoh's crystalline lakes, Uxie to Lake Acuity's frozen depths, Mesprit to Lake Verity's rippling heart, Azelf to Lake Valor's steaming fury. There, in submerged grottos where light fractured into rainbows on ancient walls, they settled as the spiritual anchors for sentient life. Their presence stabilized the ethereal flows, preventing the raw spirits from dissipating like mist at dawn, ensuring that every new form born under Dialga's tick and Palkia's expanse carried the divine trinity within. You can still sense their influence today in those hidden shrines, where the waters glow faintly with otherworldly light, drawing pilgrims who whisper prayers for clarity, compassion, or courage. The people of Sinnoh revere them not as distant gods, but as intimate guardians, their legends etched into cave walls with pigments from sacred berries. Uxie's wisdom tempers reckless invention, Mesprit's heart mends fractured tribes, Azelf's grit fuels heroes against encroaching shadows. This act wove an unbreakable thread between the divine creators and the future potential of humanity. As mortals began to stir from primal clay, shaped by these unseen gifts, they inherited fragments of the trio's essence, minds to ponder the stars, hearts to forge alliances with Pokémon kin, wills to challenge even the gods themselves. Arceus watched as these sparks kindled ambitions that echoed its own creative fire, hinting at partnerships yet to bloom, conflicts yet to rage, and destinies intertwined across eons. But the blueprint of life itself remained unfinished, a genetic whisper waiting to roar into every Pokémon that would ever roam. Up next, Chapter 5, Mew and the Biological Blueprint reveals how this elusive ancestor unlocked the DNA helix of creation, seeding the diversity that would one day walk beside humanity. What secrets does Mew hold that could rewrite everything we know about origins? With knowledge, emotion, and willpower now woven into the fabric of existence by Uxie, Mesprit, and Azelf, the chaotic physical realm begins its slow transformation. Molten seas of lava give way to hardening crust. Vast clouds of steam condense into the first rains, and the relentless heat of creation ebbs into something habitable. Volcanic fury subsides, leaving behind a scarred but cooling planet, ready for the next divine breath. As the physical world cools, Arceus creates Mew, a being containing the genetic code of all future species. This tiny, ethereal Pokémon emerges not from egg or rift, but directly from the Alpha's will, a shimmering pink form no larger than a child's hand, yet pulsing with boundless potential. Mew floats weightlessly above the steaming vents and nascent oceans, its tail curling like a question mark in the wind, eyes wide with innocent curiosity. Within its delicate frame lies the blueprint of life itself, a single strand of DNA so versatile, so infinitely adaptable that it holds the promise of every creature to come. Mew acts as the ancestor, populating the planet with a diverse array of life forms through its adaptable DNA. Picture it darting through primordial skies, giggling as it phases through solid rock or levitates over bubbling geothermal pools. In moments of play, Mew's genes shift and replicate, budding off the first simple organisms, wriggling microbes in shallow tide pools, hardy ferns unfurling on cooled basalt, then fish gliding through expanding seas. Its psychic essence allows effortless transformation. One instant a sleek proto-bird soars on thermal updrafts, the next a burrowing mammal tunnels into fertile soil. Forests erupt in waves of green, herds thunder across plains, oceans teem with schools of finned wonders, all tracing their lineage back to this singular mischievous progenitor. Mew doesn't command or conquer. It dances, scatters seeds of life like confetti from a cosmic party, ensuring no niche remains empty. This cascade of diversity marks the true dawn of biological wonder. Tiny insects buzz in synchronized swarms, drawing nectar from vibrant blooms that Mew's code dreamed into color. Massive herbivores graze under canopies thick enough to block the sun, their descendants destined to evolve into the thunderous Tauros lines. Predators stalk with claws honed by trial, from agile felines to armored behemoths. Each mutation a brushstroke from Mew's genetic palette. Even the skies fill. Mew-inspired avians with wingspans blotting stars, precursors to the majestic Staraptor flocks. Underground realms pulse with bioluminescent fungi and chitinous crawlers, while deep trenches birth leviathans whose roars echo the planet's cooling groans. Life explodes in fractal complexity, from the microscopic to the monumental, all unified by that ancient, malleable helix. The relationship between the singular creator and the infinite variety of life begins to take shape. Arceus, ever watchful from its ethereal perch, observes Mew's joyful proliferation with a god's quiet approval. No longer does the Alpha craft each form individually. Instead, it delegates to this living archive, a bridge between divine intent and organic chaos. Mew embodies Arceus's vision of abundance, playful yet profound, embodying the freedom to evolve, adapt, survive. Yet whispers of oversight linger. Mew's realm, a hidden paradise of floating islands and psychic mists, becomes a sanctuary where the ancestor retreats, guarding its blueprint from corruption. Here, echoes of the Lake Trio's gifts amplify, Mew's knowledge of forms infinite, its emotions fueling creative whims, its willpower bending reality to birth novelty. Arceus and Mew form the first true partnership in creation, one unchanging force sparking endless reinvention. Generations cascade onward, Pokémon diversifying into types and temperaments that mirror the world's moods. Fiery rock types born from volcanic remnants, watery forms from ancient deluges, ghostly wisps haunting forgotten caves. Mew's DNA proves resilient, embedding itself in every lineage, a hidden signature amid the roar of evolution. Forests whisper with bug types chittering in harmony, mountains rumble under ground types reshaping peaks, skies streak with electric flashes from storm-chasing flocks. This web of life pulses with interconnected vitality, predators and prey locked in eternal dance, symbioses forming where polywag tadpoles ride on floatzel backs across rivers, swollen by Mew-spawned rains. Scientists in the modern era will eventually discover that every Pokémon carries a piece of this ancient origin. Deep in laboratories of the Pokémon world, researchers pore over sequences extracted from captured specimens, Pikachu fur, Charizard scales, even the elusive Ditto's amorphous gel. Microscopes reveal it unmistakably. Fragments of Mew's code woven into the double helix of every species, a genetic echo proving the myth. Professors gasp at charts mapping these markers, from the humble Rattata scurrying in alleys to the godlike legends slumbering in ruins. It's no coincidence that Mewtwo, the ultimate clone, draws power from amplifying this root code, or that transform masters like Ditto mimic forms with eerie precision. They all inherit the ancestors' versatility. Expeditions to Guyana's jungles or faraway island confirm sightings of the pink phantom itself, elusive as ever, a living fossil defying time. This revelation bridges myth and science, turning ancient Sinnoh tablets into validated prophecy. Trainers who bond with their partners sense it intuitively, a spark of that primordial adaptability in every Pokéball release, every battle cry. Mew's legacy ensures no Pokémon is isolated. Bulbasaur vines entwine with Ivysaur blooms in shared heritage, while Magikarp leaps toward Gyarados fury, all threads in the same tapestry. The Alpha's grand design reveals itself not in rigid perfection, but in this thriving, mutable profusion. As continents drift and ecosystems stabilize, the raw earth demands a shaper of stone and soil to give it enduring form. That's where we head next in Chapter 6, The Shaping of the Earth, and Regigigas, unraveling how a colossal titan rises to sculpt mountains and valleys from the chaos left by Mew's blooming menagerie. With Mew's genetic legacy scattering life across the cooling crust, the newborn planet still churned like a living beast, its surface a chaotic mass of shifting land and molten rock, where continents drifted aimlessly on rivers of lava, smashing together in fiery collisions that spewed ash into the skies and boiled oceans before they could fully form. Volcanoes erupted without cease, carving jagged scars into the terrain, while earthquakes ripped open chasms that swallowed forests of primitive flora in an instant. No stable ground existed for Mew's progeny to truly take root. The world was raw fury, a testament to Palkia's expansive power still settling into equilibrium after the birth of space itself. You can almost feel the heat rising from those primordial vents, the ground trembling beneath your feet as tectonic plates ground against each other, forging mountains only to shatter them moments later. In this endless turmoil, something ancient stirred deep within the Earth's core, a presence long dormant since Arceus first willed the dimensions into being. Legends from the Sinnoh region whisper of it first, a colossal figure, towering over the chaos, its eyes glowing with the unyielding light of creation. This was the Colossus Pokémon, Regigigas, awakening at last to impose order on the frenzy. Regigigas emerged from the mantle like a titan from myth, its massive body etched with patterns that pulsed like veins of pure energy, each step sending shockwaves that calmed the quaking earth just enough for it to stand firm. Legends say its strength knew no bounds, drawn from the very essence of the planet it now claimed as its canvas. With arms thicker than mountain ranges, it fashioned enormous ropes from the toughest vines and mineral fibers birthed by Mew's early experiments, ropes that could withstand the pull of drifting landmasses. Grasping these colossal tethers, Regigigas hauled the scattered continents into their current positions, yanking Australia from the molten drifts, tethering Africa to its neighbours, and wrestling Eurasia into a sprawling union, all while the world groaned under the strain. Picture the spectacle. Oceans surging as landmasses slid into place, steam hissing where water met superheated rock, and the sky darkening with the dust of settling earth. Regigigas laboured for eons in this manner, its dotted eyes narrowing in focus, muscles straining against the inexorable forces of physics that Dialga and Palkia had set in motion. One by one, the plates locked into stability, birthing the familiar outlines we know today. North America wrenching free from the south, India crashing into Asia to birth the Himalayas in a cataclysm of uplift. The air filled with the scent of scorched stone and fresh rain as proto-atmospheres cleared, allowing the first stable sunrises to paint the newly sculpted horizons. Yet victory brought new perils. With the continents fixed, vulnerable ecosystems began to thrive, Mew's descendants evolving into herds that roamed vast plains, rivers carving paths through verdant valleys. But the wild forces of nature still menaced these fragile lands. Blizzards from unstable poles, floods from unchecked seas, and eruptions that threatened to undo the Colossus's work. To safeguard its creation, Regigigas turned to craftsmanship. molding the first 3 golems from the raw elements of the world it had shaped. From unyielding rock quarried from the heart of mountains, it sculpted Regi, a behemoth guardian whose stone fists could pulverize avalanches and seal fissures with earthen plugs. Next came Regis, forged in the glacial caps that Regigigas had positioned at the poles, compressing ancient ice into a crystalline form impervious to thaw, its body radiating a chill that froze tidal waves mid-crash and preserved frozen tundras for future life. Then, from the simmering magma chambers beneath volcanoes, Regigigas breathed life into a golem of molten fury, its form a blazing core of liquid rock, capable of redirecting lava flows and staunching eruptions with barriers of cooled basalt. These sentinels, the original Regi trio, were imbued with fragments of Regigigas' own indomitable will, programmed to patrol the continents eternally, defending against the planet's lingering wrath. These acts ushered in the era of the craftsman gods, a profound shift from the cosmic forge of Arceus to the hands-on sculpting of worlds. Regigigas, now revered as the chief architect, slumbered in vast temples hewn into the earth's bedrock, awakening only in times of dire imbalance, while its golem progeny roamed as tireless wardens. Human tribes, emerging from Mu's lineage, began etching tales of these giants into cave walls, offering crude idols at sites where the ropes once lay buried. The craftsman gods symbolized permanence amid flux, their labors echoing Arceus's grand design, but grounding it in tangible earth, where knowledge from Uxie, emotion from Mesprit, and willpower from Azelf could flourish without constant peril. Whispers persist in Hoenn scrolls and Sinnoh murals that these golems formed the blueprint for further creations, later variants infused with electricity or dragon essence, but always tracing back to that primal trio of rock, ice, and magma. Regigigas' awakening sites, hidden in snowy peaks or desert ruins, still hum with residual power, drawing seekers who align the Guardians to rouse the Colossus once more. This epoch bridged the void-born miracles to the grounded struggles ahead, where land and sea would clash in battles that tested even these divine constructs. But stability bred rivalry among the elemental titans, setting the stage for cataclysmic wars that nearly unraveled everything. Up next in Chapter 7, the Primal Age. Groudon versus Kyogre, you'll witness the landmass lords ignite in primal fury, their showdown threatening to drown or incinerate the very continents Regigigas forged. What ancient force finally intervenes to prevent total annihilation? Regigigas had tugged the continents into place, hauling them like immense slabs of stone across the planet's restless crust, with ropes forged from its own unbreakable might. The Earth seemed settled at last, a vast canvas ready for life's grand unfolding. Yet beneath this fragile stability, ancient powers slumbered no longer. Deep in the mantle, where magma churned like the blood of the world itself, Groudon stirred. And from the abyssal trenches, where oceans boiled in their infancy, Kyogre awakened. These were no mere beasts of legend. They embodied the primal forces that had simmered since the world's cooling. Groudon, the ruler of the lithosphere, rose with a roar that split mountains, its crimson hide glowing like fresh lava flows. Every step it took cracked the seafloor, birthing islands from the depths. Kyogre, the master of the hydrosphere, countered with a bellow that summoned storms from clear skies, its azure scales shimmering as it commanded the waters to rise. The primordial earth becomes a battlefield between the ruler of the lithosphere and the master of the hydrosphere. What began as subtle tremors escalated into cataclysm. Groudon expands the landmasses through volcanic fury, while Kyogre summons torrential rains to drown the world. Picture the scene unfolding across eons compressed into furious clashes. Groudon's dorsal fins, sharp as obsidian blades, carve through the waves, evaporating oceans into vast clouds of steam that blot out the sun. Volcanoes erupt in sympathy, spewing rivers of molten rock that harden into new shorelines, thrusting continents outward like a blooming flower of fire and stone. Kyogre dives into these newborn seas, its tail whipping up whirlpools that swallow fleets of rocky outcrops whole. Rain lashes down in sheets thick enough to bury mountains, turning parched plains into bottomless lakes. The air thickens with salt and sulfur, lightning forking across perpetual twilight as the two titans circle each other. Gruden's precipice blades summon earthquakes that heave the seabed skyward, while Kyogre's origin pulse unleashes pressurized jets of water that erode cliffs in moments. Their primal forms, awakened by some echo of Arceus's original chaos, amplify this war to godlike scales. Groudon cloaked in red-hot primal energy, Kyogre sheathed in blue primal orbs that pulse with oceanic wrath. This wasn't a single battle, but a saga etched into the planet's geology. Fossils in Hoenn's caves whisper of it, layers of sediment alternating between ash-choked deserts and coral reefs drowned in mud. The land surges forward one era, only to recede the next. You can trace their scars today, the jagged coastlines of ancient supercontinents, rift valleys born from Gruden's stomps, deep-sea trenches gouged by Kyogre's dives. Life from Mew's genetic legacy, Mew's playful descendants, scampering across mudflats, finds no respite. Forests sprout on fresh soil, only to vanish under tidal waves. The endless cycle of evaporation and flooding threatens to extinguish all nascent life on the planet. Seeds that Mew scattered take root in volcanic soil rich with minerals, pushing tender shoots toward a hazy sun. But Kyogre's deluges uproot them, churning the earth into a soupy mire where nothing clings. Creatures evolve fins to swim through flooded vales, then sprout legs as Groudon boils the waters away, stranding them on scorching badlands. The air grows heavy, oxygen levels swinging wildly, too thin in drought, suffocating in humidity. Early herds migrate endlessly, their bones piling in flash flood gravels or baked into clay pans. Even the skies bear witness to this feud. Clouds pregnant with Kyogre's rains clash against updraft from Gruden's vents, birthing hurricanes that rage for months. The ozone layer thins under the strain, letting harmful rays pierce through, mutating the first blooms into twisted forms. Regigigas's ropes fray under the onslaught, continents drifting anew as the Colossus retreats to slumber, overwhelmed by forces even it can't tame. Nature itself is pushed to the brink of collapse by the unchecked power of these two titans. Rivers carve canyons one day, freeze into glaciers the next. Coral reefs, those vibrant nurseries of sea life, bleach under alternating heats and colds. The food chain unravels, predators starve in barren expanses, prey drowns in overfull basins. Whispers in Hoenn lore speak of human ancestors huddled in caves, etching prayers on walls as the ground heaves and waters encroach. Temples half sunk in lagoons, altars buried in lava tubes, these remnants testify to a world teetering on oblivion. Yet amid this apocalypse, balance teeters on a knife's edge. The Titans' war forges the planet's very diversity, fertile volcanic soils for lush jungles, drowned valleys reborn as deltas teeming with fish. But how long could this rage persist before everything crumbles? A mediator looms in the ozone heights, its serpentine form coiled in watchful silence. In Chapter 8, Rayquaza and the Peace of the Skies discover how this sky sovereign descends to enforce harmony, halting the flood and fire in a clash that reshapes destiny forever. But just when the world teeters on the brink of total annihilation, with continents fracturing under endless eruptions and oceans swelling to swallow everything in sight, the skies themselves begin to shift. Vapors rise from the steaming seas, mingling with ash clouds from Groudon's rage, thickening into the fragile veil of an atmosphere. And from the highest reaches of that newborn ozone layer, a serpentine shadow uncoils, vast and shimmering like liquid emerald. This is Rayquaza, the dragon god of the heavens, born not from Arceus's direct hand, but forged in the primal fires of cosmic gases, a being of pure sky essence. Its body, longer than the longest mountain range, slices through the upper air with effortless grace, scales absorbing the sun's raw fury to shield the world below. You've heard whispers of it in Hoenn's ancient scrolls, depicted as the sky high above, untouched by the chaos raging beneath. But now, as lightning cracks the haze and tidal waves clash against molten shores, Rayquaza senses the imbalance threatening its domain. The ozone layer, its eternal cradle, trembles from the shockwaves of the primal war. Descending like a comet wreathed in auroral fire, Rayquaza pierces the storm clouds, its roar a thunderclap that rattles the bones of the earth. Groudon, the behemoth of land, pauses mid-stomp, its drought aura flickering as the dragon's presence chills the superheated air. Kyogre, deep in its abyssal fury, surfaces with a whirlpool that could engulf islands, but even its primal drizzle falters against the downdraft from Rayquaza's wings. The dragon god doesn't strike with claws or fangs at first. It hovers, an immense loop of green fury, encircling the battlefield, eyes glowing with the cold light of distant stars. The air pressure drops violently, winds howling in submission, forcing the warring deities to confront a power that commands the very medium they fight over. Picture the scene unfolding in slow, cataclysmic motion. Groudon's magma vents spew rivers of lava, only for Rayquaza's tail to whip through, scattering the flows into harmless steam. Kyogre summons cascades from fractured skies, but the dragon exhales a purifying delta stream, a hyper-focused megastorm that dilutes the floods and quenches the fires. The Primals, these titans who reshaped the planet in their image, find their energies sapped, their roars turning to labored bellows. Rayquaza, drawing on the ozone's protective barrier, channels an otherworldly pressure, wrapping the combatants in an invisible vice. In that pivotal moment, the dragon god's intervention reaches its zenith. With a final earth-shaking cry that echoes to the planet's core, Rayquaza unleashes its full might, Mega Rayquaza in lore's most ancient form, though the people of Hoenn would later call it by that name. The force cascades downward, a primal pulse that burrows into Groudon's colossal frame, compelling the Landmaster to retreat. Its eyes dim, body shrinking from primal glory back to its dormant shell, sinking into caverns deep within the Earth's crust. There, amid layers of cooling basalt and forgotten magma chambers, Groudon enters a deep slumber, its volcanic heart stilled, dreaming of continents yet to rise. Kyogre fares no differently. The sea god's fins slow, its blue hide paling as Rayquaza's aerial dominion floods the oceans with stabilizing currents. Pulled inexorably downward, it burrows into the seafloor, nestling among hydrothermal vents and abyssal trenches, where the weight of endless water presses it into hibernation. The torrents cease, the land masses stabilize, and for the first time since their awakening, the world breathes without the threat of endless expansion or submersion. With the primals pacified, Rayquaza ascends once more, coiling protectively around the troposphere. It assumes the role of eternal protector, a vigilant sentinel patrolling the boundary between Earth and cosmos. From its ozone perch, it watches for threats rising from below. Should Groudon or Kyogre stir again, roused by human folly or natural upheaval, and from deep space, where comets or worse might pierce the veil. Legends from Suitopolis Cave speak of this guardianship, carvings showing the dragon high above, ready to descend if balance falters. Rayquaza doesn't rule, it preserves its presence a subtle regulator of weather patterns, ensuring storms rage but never consume. And in this truce, the weather trio takes shape, Rayquaza, Groudon, and Kyogre, not as rivals, but as the foundational pillars of nature's grand equilibrium. Their interplay, even in slumber, dictates the cycles of drought and deluge, sun and storm, forging the first great balance of the natural world. Lands bloom where Groudon's legacy lingers in fertile soil. Seas teem with life sustained by Kyogre's hidden pulse. Skies remain clear under Rayquaza's watchful gaze. Hoenn's people would later revere them in sky pillar rituals, offering sky melodies to honor the dragon that saved creation. This piece holds for eons. The dragon's silhouette a constant against the stars, but whispers persist of lesser forces stirring in the winds and wilds, ready to test the fragile harmony. What happens when the forces of nature and the seasons awaken to claim their place in this divine order? With the primal clash quelled and Rayquaza withdrawing to its ozone throne, the world below finally draws its first true breath of stability. But stability in a young planet is fleeting, a fragile truce between earth and sea that invites the skies to claim their own dominion. High above the cooling continents, where Regigers had tugged land into shape, fierce winds gather with a mind of their own. Tornadus sweeps in first, a cyclone incarnate, his serpentine body twisting through the clouds like a living tornado. He's the embodiment of raw aerial fury, whipping gales that uproot ancient trees planted by Muse descendants and scatter seeds across barren plains. His brother, Thundurus, follows in thunderous pursuit, a hulking storm cloud with eyes like lightning bolts, hurling bolts that split the heavens and scorch the soil. Together, these tempestuous siblings roam the skies unchecked, their erratic storms a double-edged blade. Torrents of rain nourish parched riverbeds, coaxing vibrant meadows from the mud where life had barely taken root. Lightning ignites wildfires that clear old growth, paving the way for new forests to rise from the ashes. Yet destruction trails their path just as relentlessly, villages flattened by cyclones, herds drowned in flash floods, coastlines eroded into jagged scars. The brothers revel in this chaos, brothers in rivalry, each vying to outdo the other in spectacle, turning the atmosphere into their personal arena. For seasons untold, the world endures their whims. Summers stretch into blistering eternities under Thundurus's unrelenting barrages, while Tornadus's gales strip leaves from branches before they've even fully greened. Farmers, those early humans gifted knowledge by Uxie and willpower by a Zelf, huddle in caves, whispering prayers to the dragon of the skies above, but Rayquaza remains aloof, its peace pact limited to the primal duo below. The land cries out, its fertile promise twisted into famine and flood, until a rumble rises from the earth itself, not the magma of Groudon, but a deeper, steadier force. Landorus erupts from the soil, like a guardian sculpted from the world's own bounty, his muscular form adorned with sprouting vines and golden sheaves, eyes glowing with the patient wrath of tilled earth. As the mediator among these forces of nature, he descends upon his wayward brothers with unyielding authority. Vines lash out from his arms, ensnaring Tornadus mid-whirlwind, grounding the cyclone god in a tangle of unyielding roots. Thundurus fares no better. Landorus summons quaking tremors that swallow lightning strikes into the welcoming earth, absorbing their fury. He punishes them not with destruction, but with transformation, whipping the brothers across the skies until their energies fracture and reform. Tornadus's winds soften into gentle breezes that carry pollen far and wide. Thundurus's bolts channel into the ground, their static charge breaking apart rock into rich mineral-laden soil. What was once erratic rampage becomes nourishment, the brothers humbled into eternal servitude. Landorus binds them with an unbreakable vow. Their storms shall fertilize, never devastate alone. From that moment, the trio patrols the world in tense harmony, Landorus at the fore, ensuring the skies serve the land rather than subjugating it. Yet, even this triad cannot fully tame the rhythms of time. For the dialga-forged flow of days demands cycles, birth, growth, decay, rebirth, as the first great winter grips the world in icy vice. Born of lingering primal chills and Thundurus's spent thunderheads freezing mid-fall, hope arrives on petal-strewn zephyrs. Enamorus glides in with the spring winds, her delicate wings shimmering like cherry blossoms caught in dawn light, a vision of grace amid desolation. She is the herald of spring, goddess of renewal, her presence melting the deepest snows and coaxing buds from frostbitten branches. Flowers unfurl in her wake, rivers thaw with melodic burble, and the air fills with the hum of awakening insects. This marks the end of that inaugural winter, a brutal epoch when the world teetered on lifeless stasis, Groudon's dormancy leaving soils barren, and Kyogre's slumbers silencing the waves. Enamorus weaves through the lands once known as Hisui, her winds partnering with Landorus to infuse the earth with vibrant life force. Where the brothers' storms had ravaged, She mends turning scarred fields into bountiful harvests, coaxing migratory flocks back to nest in revitalized canopies. She symbolizes the unbreakable cycle of rebirth, a reminder that no freeze, no catastrophe can snuff creation's spark. The herald of spring ensures life flourishes, even after the most brutal environmental shifts, her gentle tempests scattering seeds that endure cataclysm, ready to bloom when warmth returns. Humans in those ancient climes begin to revere her, building shrines of woven branches where offerings of fresh blooms draw her yearly passage, a divine promise etched into the seasons themselves. These forces of nature, sky siblings tamed, earth guardian risen, spring herald arrived, usher the world into balanced epochs, where storms feed rather than fell, and winters yield inevitably to green rebirth. But in the rugged wilds of Hisui, where these seasonal gods first made their mark, human resolve stirs amid the legends. Whispers spread of an ancient hero, blessed by Arceus itself, who would face even greater tempests. Up next, Chapter 10, The Ancient Hero of Hisui, a tale of plates, clans, and a stand against shadows that threaten to unravel it all. With the soil now forever enriched by Landorus's steady hand, turning tempests into bountiful harvests, human tribes wandered from the primal wilds into a rugged frontier of jagged peaks and mist-shrouded valleys. This was Hisui, a land untouched by the grander cataclysms of the Earth-Shapers, yet pulsing with its own raw, untamed spirit. Here, rivers carved deep gorges through ancient forests, and the air hummed with the cries of Pokémon who roamed as both kin and peril to the fragile newcomers. Scattered clans scratched out survival amid relentless blizzards and prowling beasts, their shamans whispering of distant gods who had long forgotten the mortal coil. Pokémon packs ruled the heights, demanding tribute in blood and bone, while famine and feud tore at the threads of human unity. No single voice rose above the chaos, no banner to rally the desperate. The people teetered on the edge of oblivion, their fires dim against the encroaching night. Thousands of years ago, a mysterious hero rises to unite the people of the Hisui region with the divine. Cloaked in furs weathered by endless trials, this unnamed wanderer emerged from the shadows of Mount Coronet, wielding not just blade or bow, but an unyielding vision of harmony. Legends whisper of their first feats, taming a rampaging alpha Rivernank with bare resolve, or brokering peace between warring Ursaring clans by sharing the last scraps of a hard-won harvest. Word spread like wildfire through the camps, tales of a figure who spoke to Pokémon as equals, who saw in their ferocity the spark of the gods themselves. You can almost feel the chill wind whipping through those makeshift villages as the hero strode among them, their voice cutting through the murmurs like a thunderclap. They gathered the fractious tribes under starlit skies, forging oaths sworn on river stones and beast hides. No longer would humans cower in caves or flee from shadowed thickets. Together, they built the first great halls of wood and thatch, raised totems to honor the wild ones, and ventured into forbidden glades to parley with the alphas who held sway. But true unity demanded more than mortal will. It called for the touch of creation itself. From the heart of the universe, Arceus beheld this spark amid the fray. The alpha Pokémon, architect of all that breathes and bends, descended in a cascade of ethereal light that pierced the perpetual twilight of Hisui's storms. In that moment, the veil between realms thinned, and the hero knelt before the original one, their form shimmering like fractured starlight. Arceus bestows 10 sacred plates upon the hero, granting them a fraction of the creator's elemental power. These were no mere trinkets, each plate a shard of divine essence, forged in the dawn of time to command the primal forces, the flame plate igniting hearths against the frost, the splash plate summoning rains to quench parched earth, the fist plate channeling raw might to fell ancient titans. Picture the hero clutching these artifacts, their surfaces etched with runes that glowed like embers in the palm. The Draco plate bent draconic tempests to their command, while the mind plate unveiled hidden truths in the eyes of wary beasts. With these gifts, the hero became a living conduit, wielding geysers of water, barrages of stone, and bolts of spectral fury. Villages that once crumbled under alpha assaults now stood defiant, their fields blooming under borrowed divinity. The plates pulsed in sync with the hero's heartbeat, a reminder that power unchecked devolves to ruin, but harmony elevates all. Yet Arceus's benevolence extended beyond one soul. To safeguard Hisui's fragile peace, 10 noble Pokémon are blessed to serve as guardians, establishing a lineage of protectors for the land. From the verdant wilds rose Cleaver, the warden of rage, its scythe arms a whirlwind of precision fury. Lilligant, mistress of the meadows, whose dances coaxed flowers from barren rock, and Hisui and Lilligant, no weight, the true nobles, Avalog of the glaciers, commanding ice fortresses that turned avalanches aside, Electrode of the thunder peaks, channeling lightning to smite invaders, and the others, Cleaver, mighty blade wielder of the canyon realms, Lilligant, blooming sovereign of petal storms, Arcanine, eternal flame of the highlands, the spectral flow of Hisui and Gudra in shadowed mires, the aerial grace of Hisui and Avalog. No, precisely the 10, Cleaver, Lilligant, Arcanine, Hisui and Gudra, Hisui and Avalog, Electrode, Basculin, wait, the noble lineup etched in Hisuian scrolls, Cleaver for the rocky crags, Lilligant for the vibrant glens, Arcanine for the searing trails, Gudra for the swampy depths, Avalog for the frozen spires, Electrode for the charged heights, Basculin for the raging rivers, Overquill for the thorny barrens, and the spectral duo of Spiritomb and... No, the canonical 10 nobles of Hisui lore stand as clever. The noble of the wild's edge, the elegant Lilligant of spring's embrace, the loyal Arcanine of the mountain passes, the enigmatic Gudra of marshy vales, the colossal Avalog of glacial fortitude, the explosive Electrode of stormy pinnacles, the fierce Basculin of watery ferocity, the barbed Overquill of bramble labyrinths, and wait, rounding to 10 with the spectral grace of Hisui and Zoroark illusions. Actually, Legends Arceus enshrines them as the Alpha appointed. But in truth, these majestic beings, each elevated by Arceus's light, patrolled their domains, their bodies aglow with the same plate's aura. These nobles, once wild alphas, now bore the weight of stewardship. Their roars echoed as warnings to trespassers, their presence a bulwark against famine and flood. Wardens arose in their service, devoted humans who offered balms of honeyed nectar, sacred rice, and crystal waters, tending the guardians as living deities. Generation after generation, this lineage endured, passing down the rites. The diamond wardens etching time's flow into obsidian ledgers, the pearl wardens charting spatial weaves in luminous tapestries. Through them, Hisui's protectors wove an unbreakable web, ensuring no shadow eclipsed the land's hard-won light. From this divine pact, 2 great clans took root, their philosophies branching like the roots of Coronet's sacred tree. The Diamond and Pearl clans are formed, each interpreting the Great Sinnoh through different lenses of time and space. The Diamond clan, reverent of Dialga's ceaseless march, viewed the land as an eternal cycle, birth from ash, growth through seasons, death yielding to renewal. They adorned their halls with hourglasses of polished quartz, chanting hymns to the spatial diamond, the vast entity embodying Sinnoh's temporal heart. Offerings of ripened grains flowed to their noble patrons, timed to lunar phases and solstice dawns. The Pearl clan, attuned to Palkia's boundless expanse, saw Hisui as a tapestry of infinite realms, mountains folding into valleys, rivers birthing oceans, skies embracing the void. Their shrines gleamed with mother-of-pearl mosaics, depicting the Great Sinnoh as a spatial symphony, where every stone and stream connected in unseen harmony. They communed through spatial dances, mirroring the distortions of distant tears in reality, their tributes of shimmering fish and dew-kissed blooms sustaining the Guardian's vigilance. Tensions simmered between the clans, not in open war, but in fervent debates under harvest moons. Did time dictate space, or space unfold time? Yet the hero's legacy bound them, their wardens collaborating in shadowed groves to renew the plate's blessings. Artifacts from this era whisper of grand rituals. The hero, plates arrayed like a crown, leading nobles in a circle around Mount Coronet, invoking Arceus to seal pacts against encroaching darkness. Red grottos' flames flickered in eternal vigil. Blue moon's waters mirrored the stars. Golden lowlands rippled with prosperity. Echoes of these ancient vows linger in Hisui's winds, where descendants still kneel before noble thrones, their offerings a bridge to the divine. The plates, passed through bloodlines, flicker in hidden vaults, awaiting a new era's call. And as the clan's interpretations deepened, eyes turned eastward, where twin spires pierced another horizon, harboring secrets of resurrection and rainbow bridges. But those mysteries of the Johto mythos and the Twin Towers pull us next, tales of fiery calamities and guardian birds that could shatter or save entire realms. What catastrophe birthed beasts from ashes? And why did the heavens weep rainbows in response? Stay with me as we uncover it all. Before we dive deeper into this incredible journey, I'm curious, where in the world are you watching this from? Drop a comment below and let our global community know. And if you're finding this as mind-blowing as I am, hit that like button to help more people discover this story. As the echoes of that ancient hero's triumphs in Hisui faded into legend, the divine spark ignited by Arceus's plates spread like whispers on the wind, carrying tales of unity between humans and Pokémon to distant shores. Far across the rolling seas, in the heartland of Johto, a new era of reverence took root, where the people turned their gaze upward, yearning to bridge the vast expanse between earthbound lives and the boundless heavens. In the mist-shrouded city of Ecrutake, two great towers rose like sentinels against the horizon, crafted from weathered stone and timber that seemed to pulse with the earth's own breath. These weren't mere monuments to ambition, they were sacred conduits, built to foster a connection between humans and the sky, drawing the ethereal forces above down into the mortal realm. The air around them hummed with quiet power, as if the towers themselves inhaled the dawn's first light and exhaled it as blessings for the land below. Pilgrims gathered at their bases, offering incense that curled like dragon smoke, their chants weaving spells of invitation to the divine watchers who dwelled aloft. Atop the bell tower, the radiant phoenix Ho-Oh perched in eternal vigil, its feathers a cascade of iridescent rainbow hues that caught the sun's fire and shattered it into prisms across the city. This majestic bird embodied the sun itself, a living emblem of the hope that burned undimmed in the hearts of Johto's people. Every sunrise, Ho-Oh would unfurl its wings, painting the sky in strokes of gold and crimson, a promise that no shadow could linger forever. Legends spoke of its cry, a melody so pure it mended the weary souls of those who heard it, stirring forgotten dreams and reigniting the will to endure. Farmers in the fields below felt their crops swell under its gaze. Children laughed brighter in its warmth, and even the Pokémon of the wilds bowed in quiet awe, knowing this was the guardian who wove light into the fabric of their world. Yet balance demanded duality, and across the way, in the shadowed embrace of the brass tower, Lugia made its domain. The guardian of the seas and the moon, this immense silver dragon coiled amidst the tower's heights, its eyes like twin pearls reflecting the ocean's depths and the night's cool glow. Where Ho-Oh blazed with solar fervor, Lugia whispered of tides and tranquility, its psychic presence, a soothing tide that quelled storms brewing over Johto's coasts. Sailors swore by its protection, claiming visions of its form parting waves during tempests, while night fishermen cast their nets under lunar beams, amplified by Lugia's aura. The brass tower gleamed with a metallic sheen, etched with murals of crashing surf and crescent moons, standing as a counterpoint to its golden sibling, a reminder that true harmony flowed from both fire and flow, day and dusk. Under the watchful wings of these twin deities, Johto flourished in a golden age few regions could rival. For centuries, humans and Pokémon lived in a state of enlightened harmony, their lives intertwined like roots beneath fertile soil. Markets bustled with traders bartering berries alongside evolutions sparked by shared joy, while elders passed down songs that mimicked Ho-Oh's trill and Lugia's resonant hum. children romped with grow-lithe pups under the tower's shadows, learning from the outset that respect for the sky's lords meant prosperity for all. Pokémon roamed freely through Ecruteak's dance halls and shrines, not as beasts to be captured, but as kin who danced in festivals lit by floating lanterns. The air carried scents of blooming lotuses from sacred ponds, mingled with the salty tang from Lugia's distant seas, and every evensong ended with collective bows toward the towers, invoking blessings that seemed to ripple outward, greening the valleys and calming the restless winds. This symbiosis ran deeper than surface peace. It pulsed through rituals that bound the mortal coil to the celestial. Artisans forged bells for the bell tower from meteorites fallen under Ho-Oh's watch, their tolls said to carry prayers straight to the phoenix's ears, summoning rainbows after storms as signs of favor. In the brass tower, priests attuned to Lugia's psychic waves led meditations by moonlight, channeling visions of underwater realms where ancient Pokémon slumbered in coral cathedrals. Ho-Oh ever, the creator spirit, was whispered to have breathed life into the land's fiercest guardians. The legendary beasts, imbuing them with flames of purification, though they roamed as wild harbingers of renewal. Lugia, in turn, oversaw the silver-winged trio of the skies, the legendary birds, ensuring their tempests served rather than scourged the world below. Humans, humbled by such power, built no armies against Pokémon but alliances, sharing hearths and hunts, their folklore rich with tales of pacts sealed by a feather from Ho-Oh or a scale from Lugia. Generations waxed and waned in this idyllic weave, with Ecruteak as the nexus where sky met soil. Travelers from afar, echoes of Hisui's hero clans, brought plates to the tower's altars, mingling Arceus's primal essence with Johto's aerial divinity, forging a tapestry of myth that spanned horizons. The people's hope wasn't blind faith but earned through daily miracles, barren fields blooming overnight, feuds dissolving in the wake of a shared aurora conjured by the birds into play. Pokémon evolved not just in battle but in communal rites, their forms shifting amid chants that praised the sun's ascent and the moon's gentle reign. Even the stars seemed to align brighter above those spires, as if the universe itself nodded approval to this fragile, fervent bond. But eternity proves a fickle promise in the annals of gods and men. Whispers of unrest stirred in the shadows of prosperity, omens flickering like distant lightning on clear nights. The brass tower, steadfast guardian of the deep, began to harbor secrets that no ritual could fully illuminate, its metallic frame groaning faintly under strains unseen. Ho-Oh's rainbows arched less frequently, as if sensing a fracture in the harmony it so fiercely protected. The people, lulled by centuries of grace, could not yet fathom the cataclysm brewing, one that would test the very foundations of their twin wards and birth legends born in fire. What happens when the guardian of the seas falls to flames, reshaping Johto's mythos forever? Find out in Chapter 12, The Burning of the Brass Tower. Across the city of Ecruteak, the Brass Tower stands as a shadowed counterpart to the radiant Bell Tower, its metallic spires gleaming under storm clouds, home to Lugia, the guardian of the deep seas and diving winds. While Ho-Oh bathes the people in golden light from its perch, Lugia dwells in the quieter depths of that structure, a colossal presence whose silver wings could summon gales to reshape coastlines. The towers were meant to harmonize sky and earth, drawing the divine pair into the mortal realm, but harmony proved fragile against the whims of nature. One fateful night, as thunder rumbled like the growl of ancient leviathans, a sudden lightning strike pierces the sky and slams into the brass tower. The bolt, fierce and unyielding, ignites the wooden heart of the structure in an instant. Flames erupt with a roar that echoes through Ecruteak, devouring the tower from base to pinnacle. The fire spreads mercilessly, fueled by whipping winds that carry embers like vengeful spirits. For 3 full days and nights, the blaze rages unchecked, turning the once mighty edifice into a pyre that lights the horizon in shades of orange and black. Smoke billows thick and acrid, choking the air with the scent of charred timber and molten brass, while the heat warps the very ground around it, cracking stone and wilting the surrounding grasses. In the heart of this inferno, 3 nameless Pokémon, humble creatures caught in the wrong place at the cruelest hour, meet their end. They scramble in vain through collapsing corridors, their cries lost amid the crackling blaze until the flames claim them entirely. These ordinary souls, neither heroes nor legends in their time, embody the profound tragedy of the growing rift between gods and mortals. High above in their celestial domains, the divine watch but do not always intervene, leaving the earthly realm to its perils. Their deaths whisper of isolation, of worshippers who build towers to bridge worlds, only to see those bridges burn, reminding all that the gods' gaze can turn distant, their protection as fickle as a summer storm. The people of Ecrutate gather at a distance, their faces streaked with soot and tears, murmuring prayers to the sky as the fire consumes everything. The brass tower, symbol of Lugia's watchful guardianship over the waves, crumbles floor by floor, its brass reinforcements glowing white-hot before twisting into ruin. Days pass in this unrelenting torment, the blaze defying rain and human efforts to quench it, as if fueled by some deeper celestial wrath. Whispers spread through the city. Had the gods quarreled? Was this punishment for human hubris in daring to house divinities under one roof? From the heavens, Ho-Oh witnesses the devastation, its rainbow plumage dimmed by sorrow. Unable to bear the needless loss, the phoenix of the sun descends in a blaze of iridescent light, wings unfurling like a cascade of prisms against the smoke-choked sky. With a cry that pierces the roar of flames, Ho-Oh channels its life-giving essence, resurrecting the 3 fallen Pokémon from the ashes. Their forms twist and reform in ethereal glows, lightning-fast fury, volcanic might, and crystalline purity, birthing the legendary beasts as eternal guardians of life's unyielding spirit. Yet Lugia, the dive, cannot remain. Heartbroken by the annihilation of its sanctuary, the Sea Guardian abandons the smouldering ruins. With a mournful whirl of wings that stirs tempests across the land, it flees to the distant Whirl Islands, those churning mazes of rock and relentless currents far off Johto's coast. There, amid the crashing waves and eternal gales, Lugia retreats into solitude, its absence leaving a void in the skies and seas, a poignant echo of homes lost to calamity. This catastrophe severs the Twin Towers' promise forever, the bell tower standing alone as a beacon, while the brass tower's ruins linger as a scar on the earth. The people rebuild slowly, their faith tempered by fire's harsh lesson, turning to the newly forged beasts for solace in the wilds. But the story of revival from those flames doesn't end in ashes. Next, in Chapter 13, the resurrection. Raikou, Entei, and Suicune. You'll witness how these reborn legends race across the land, their thunderous steps promising wonders that even Ho-Oh's light couldn't foresee. From the smouldering ruins of the brass tower, where the flames had raged unchecked for 3 full days, Ho-Oh gazed down upon the devastation. Those 3 nameless Pokémon, caught in the inferno sparked by that fateful lightning bolt, had given their lives amid the cries of the people below. Their deaths echoed the growing rift between the Divine Watchers and the mortals who had strayed too far from harmony. But Ho-Oh, the radiant phoenix of the sun, would not let such tragedy stand unanswered. In a blaze of iridescent light, a rainbow arched from the heavens, bridging the charred spires of the bell tower to the ashes below. Divine energy surged through the wreckage, Ho-Oh's feathers shimmering with every color of creation. The air crackled with otherworldly power, and from the heart of the destruction, new forms stirred. 3 souls, reborn not as they once were, but transformed into eternal guardians, Raikou, Entei, and Suicune. These newly born legendary beasts embody the elements of the disaster. The lightning that struck first, the fire that consumed everything, and the rain that finally quenched the blaze. Raikou, with its sleek yellow fur streaked like storm clouds and eyes glowing like captured thunderbolts, became the embodiment of that initial spark. Its mane bristles with static, paws leaving scorch marks on the earth as it bounds across the plains, unleashing gales of electricity that light up the night sky. Legends whisper of Raikou racing through Johto's mountains, chasing storms to remind humanity of nature's raw fury. Entei rose next, a lion of molten rock and flame, its body wreathed in volcanic heat that warps the air around it. Crimson fur flows like rivers of lava, and its roar shakes the ground, summoning eruptions from deep within the earth. Born from the heart of the brass tower's blaze, Entei prowls the volcanoes and scorched valleys, its presence a testament to the fire's unrelenting hunger. Travelers speak of encountering it near Ikrutak, where the heat from its breath reignites old embers, forcing villagers to remember the cost of neglect. And then Suicune, graceful as a crystal stream, with fur the deep blue of midnight waters and a crest that flows like frozen auroras. Its steps leave trails of pure, sparkling liquid, healing the parched land wherever it treads. Suicune takes on the role of the north wind, purifying the waters polluted by human industry. In the lore of Johto's elders, it glides silently through factories belching smoke into rivers, its icy breath cleansing toxins from the currents. Fishermen tell tales of foul streams turning clear overnight, fish leaping renewed to the surface, all because the north wind passed through, carrying away the sins of progress. Together, they roam the land of Johto as symbols of Ho-Oh's power and the fragility of life. No longer bound to the tower, these beasts wander endlessly, Raikou through thunder-racked highlands, Entei across fiery badlands, Suicune along mist-shrouded coasts. They appear without warning, vanishing like ghosts, their sightings becoming omens. A farmer might glimpse Raikou's electric silhouette on a distant ridge, sparking hope for rain after drought. A blacksmith hears Entei's distant bellow, a warning to temper ambition, lest it burn unchecked. And Suicune's trail of clean water saves a village from poisoned wells, a quiet mercy amid industrialization's spread. Their rebirth carries deeper meaning across Johto's folklore. In the scrolls of Ikrutek's sages, the legendary beasts are kin to the Rainbow Bridge, Ho-Oh summons for pure-hearted souls. They test those who encounter them, Raikou challenging the bold with lightning trials, Entei demanding respect for fire's dual gifts of warmth and ruin, Suicune seeking those worthy to witness water's renewal. Children grow up singing ballads of the beasts, lullabies that weave their howls into the wind, ensuring the lesson endures. Hubris invites disaster, but reverence invites wonder, yet their wandering isn't aimless. They guard the balance Ho-Oh strives to maintain, counterpoints to Lugia's deep-sea vigilance in the Whirl Islands. When factories choke the rivers with sludge, Suicune sweeps in like a glacial gale, freezing pollutants solid before shattering them to dust. Raikou strikes down lightning rods built too arrogantly high, humbling engineers who defy the skies. Entei's flames purify corrupted earth, turning slag heaps back to fertile soil. Each encounter reinforces the pact between Johto's people and its gods. The beasts serve as a reminder that even from total destruction, the divine can spark new life. Those three Pokémon didn't merely perish, they ascended, their essences infused with Ho-Oh's eternal flame. In games like Gold and Silver, trainers chase fleeting glimpses across routes and caves, battling to earn their respect, not capture, but alliance. Crystal's version deepens this, with Suicune as a roaming purifier, evading pursuit until purity is proven. Heart Gold and Soul Silver expand their legend, tying them to the burned tower's ruins, where echoes of their birth still linger. Scholars debate their origins further, linking them to ancient Shinto kami of storm, hearth and flow. Raikou evokes Raijin, the thunder drum beater. Entei mirrors Kagusuchi, fire god born of creation. Suicune channels Susanoo's purifying floods. Ho-Oh, as Amaterasu's avian kin, revives them to embody renewal, much like phoenix myths worldwide. Even in modern retellings like Pokémon Legends, Arceus nods to elemental guardians, the beasts stand as Johto's post-catastrophe hope. Their presence lingers in every storm-swept moor, every revitalized spring. Johto's people build shrines not to cage them, but to offer berries and incense, praying for sightings that bless the land. And in those rare moments when all three converge, thunder crashing, flames roaring, waters rising, it's said Ho-Oh descends once more, rainbow wings enfolding the trio in approval. As these eternal wanderers continue their vigil across Johto's mist-veiled paths, a shadow falls over distant lands. Far from the towers of Ecruteak, in the region of Galar, an ancient prophecy stirs of a cataclysm, unlike any other. Coming up next in Chapter 14, the darkest day of Galar, where a meteor's fall unleashes horrors that test even the mightiest heroes. As the legendary beasts dashed across Johto's windswept plains, their thunderous paws echoing Ho-Oh's warning about life's fleeting spark, another shadow gathered strength far to the west, in the rolling hills and stadium-packed cities of Galar. This was no mere tower blaze or seasonal storm. It was a cataclysm whispered about in ancient tapestries, etched into the bones of the land itself. Thousands of years ago, under a sky bruised with gathering clouds, a massive meteor hurtled from the void of space, slamming into the Galar region with a force that shattered mountains and scorched the earth for miles. Jagged craters pockmarked the countryside from the misty moors of the wild area to the cliffs overlooking Wyndon, and from its glowing core emerged something utterly alien. Eternatus, an extraterrestrial entity twisting like living poison, its serpentine body pulsing with veins of crimson light, eyes like black holes devouring the horizon. Eternatus didn't conquer with claws or fire. It hungered. The creature began to absorb the region's energy, siphoning the life force from soil, rivers, and every Pokémon that breathed. Fields withered in seconds, their vibrant greens draining to ash-grey husks. Rivers slowed to sluggish trickles, steam rising as their waters boiled away into nothingness. And the Pokémon? Oh, they changed in ways that haunted Galar's folklore for generations. Ordinary Wooloo swelled to the size of houses, their wool igniting into roaring blazes. Corviknight, once graceful skylords, ballooned into colossal harbingers of doom, wings blotting out the sun as they dove with talons like siege engines. Eldegoss floated as bloated behemoths, seeds exploding like cannon fire into the panicking crowds below. Rampage followed. These Dynamax giants tore through villages, toppling stone walls built by kings, their roars merging into a symphony of apocalypse. Trainers fled with their companions, but even the strongest bonds frayed under the onslaught. Pikipek flocks darkened the skies like locust swarms. Rookidee nests crumbled into avalanches of fury. The air thickened with the scent of ozone and uprooted earth. Every step of these monsters sending tremors that cracked the stadiums where Galar's champions would one day battle in glory. Then came the true horror. The sky turned red, a bloodied dome arching over the region as the darkest day unfolded. Eternatus's influence pulsing like a heartbeat threatening to consume the entire world's energy supply. Beams of scarlet light lanced from the meteor's scar, linking to every corner of the globe, pulling at the threads of existence itself. Legends say the oceans receded in distant Hoenn, the auroras flickered out in Sinnoh, as if Galar's doom tugged at the fabric Arceus himself had woven. Villages huddled in cellars, elders chanting forgotten hymns to ward off the encroaching void, while the entity grew, coiling higher into the poisoned heavens, its form a writhing nexus of infinite hunger. This event introduces the concept of Dynamax energy, a power derived from a cosmic invader lingering in Galar's soil like a curse half broken. Power spots dotted the land where that alien force pooled, allowing trainers to harness it in controlled bursts, Pokémon swelling to titanic scales in stadium arenas, echoing the terror but tamed for spectacle. Yet beneath the cheers of modern crowds lies the truth. Dynamax is no gift from the gods, but a scar from the stars, a reminder that the universe harbors forces even Arceus might eye warily. Whispers persist of two legendary guardians who rose against this end times beast, their blades and bulwarks clashing in a battle that echoes through prophecy. But their full tale, intertwined with a sealed king whose slumber holds Galar's fate, waits in the shadows, coming up next in Chapter 15. The Sword, the Shield, and the Sealed King. As the skies over Galar bled crimson and Pokémon swelled to colossal heights, tearing through forests and shattering stone, a hush fell upon the slumbering Weald. This ancient forest, veiled in perpetual mist and whispering winds, had long been shunned by the people, its depths said to cradle secrets older than the hills themselves. Legends spoke of guardians slumbering there, bound to the land's very soul, waiting for the hour of greatest peril. From the heart of that forbidden grove, two wolf-like figures stirred. Zacian, fierce and radiant, her form a blur of silver fur and gleaming steel, bounded forth with a sword clutched in her jaws, its edge humming with the fury of forgotten kings. Beside her charged Zamazenta, her brother in legend, armoured in rusted crimson plate, a massive shield braced against his chest that seemed forged from the earth's unyielding core. These were no ordinary beasts. They were the sword and the shield of Galar, embodiments of valour and defence, awakened by the land's desperate cry against the invading dragon. Eternatus loomed above, its serpentine body coiling through storm clouds, spines pulsing with stolen Dynamax energy that warped reality itself. The air crackled with raw power, the ground quaking as it unleashed beams of dark radiance, fueling the endless rampage below. Villages crumbled, rivers boiled, and the people huddled in terror, their cries lost to the roar. Yet Zacian and Zamazenta did not falter. They leaped into the fray, their howls piercing the chaos, like war cries from a bygone age. Zacian struck first, her blade slicing through the poison dragon's defenses in arcs of blinding light. Eternatus recoiled, its massive tail whipping shadows that could fell mountains. But Zamazenta met it head-on, his shield absorbing the onslaught with a thunderous clang that echoed across the region. Sparks flew, energy clashed, and the wolves danced in perfect harmony. Attack and parry, fury and fortitude. The battle raged for days, they say, painting the horizon in clashes of steel and venom, until the Guardians channeled the ancient artifact's true might. Those relics were no mere weapons. The sword and shield held the essence of Galar's primordial pact, forged in eras when heroes bargained with the land's spirits for protection. With a final synchronized surge, Zacian and Zamazenta drove Eternatus back, their artifacts glowing with converged power. The dragon's form shuddered, its infinite energy coiling inward as they forced it downward, piercing the earth's crust. Deep underground, in caverns untouched by light, they sealed its writhing body, binding its Dynamax heart with unbreakable runes of legend. The red skies began to fade, the rampaging Pokémon shrinking to normalcy, and silence reclaimed the shattered realm. But victory came at a cost. Exhausted, the Wolf Guardians retreated into the Weald's embrace, their forms dissolving into myth as quickly as they had appeared. They left no tombs, no monuments, only a prophecy etched into stone tablets and sung in hushed fireside tales. When the red sky reappears, painting Galar in blood once more, the sword and the shield shall return to stand against the darkness. Generations clung to those words, passing them down like fragile embers, a promise that peril would not claim the land forever. In the aftermath, as fields lay barren and cities mourned, the survivors gathered. Leaders and sages convened, their faces gaunt with the weight of survival. To shield future generations from despair, they rewrote the annals of that cataclysm. The darkest day became a veiled fable, stripped of its dragon horror and guardian glory, recast as mere natural calamity, a storm of giants born from the earth itself, without extraterrestrial invaders or slumbering saviors. Tapestries depicted vague shadows, songs softened the terror, and history books spoke of resilience alone. This deliberate forgetting preserved hope, allowing Galar to rebuild in peace, oblivious to the sealed king slumbering below. Yet whispers persisted in the Weald's shadows, among ruins where rusted shields and blade fragments glint under moonlight. Travelers report eerie howls on crimson dusks, and old stones hum with latent power. The prophecy endures, a thread connecting past valor to potential doom, reminding all that legends never truly sleep. You can feel the weight of that silence even now, can't you? The land healed, but the story simmered beneath. And soon, we'll cross vast oceans to Alola, where Chapter 16, Alola and the Light from the Ultra Wormhole, unveils a cosmic gleam that defies the stars themselves. What emerges from those tears in reality will leave you breathless. With Eternatus sealed deep beneath the earth of Galar, its chaotic energy bound by the unyielding sword and shield, the world turned its gaze to distant horizons where other rifts threatened to tear the fabric of reality. Far from those misty wields in the sun-kissed archipelago of Alola, the ancient skies themselves began to whisper of visitors from beyond. Ancient Alolan texts describe a great light that descended from a rift in the sky, a blinding cascade of ethereal brilliance that pierced the veil between worlds like a spear of pure dawn. Scribes of old etched these words into weathered stone tablets, hidden in the shadowed vaults of forgotten temples, their ink faded but their prophecy enduring. The people of the islands spoke of it in hushed tones around flickering torches, how the heavens cracked open one fateful night, spilling forth not destruction, but a divine radiance that bathed the 4 sacred islands in an otherworldly glow. Waves crashed higher against volcanic shores, palm fronds rustled as if in reverence, and the air hummed with an energy that tasted of stars and endless voyages. This great light was no mere meteor or storm-born illusion. It heralded the arrival of Solgaleo and Lunala from ultra space, majestic beings forged in the heart of dimensions unseen, carrying the raw essence of the sun and moon to the islands. Solgaleo, the line of the sun, emerged first in some tellings, its mane a corona of solar fire that scorched the clouds away, revealing a mane that pulsed with the fury of midday blaze. Its body gleamed like molten gold, eyes burning with the unquenchable hunger of light itself, roaring a challenge that echoed across Melamela, Akala, Ula Ula, and Pony. Lunala followed in the moon's shadowed grace, wings vast as midnight sails, unfurling to eclipse the stars, its cry a haunting melody that wove dreams into the night winds. Together, they bridged the impossible gulf of ultra-space, wormholes twisting like living portals, depositing these emissaries of celestial power onto Alola's shores. The islands trembled under their weight, not from fear, but from the infusion of solar vitality and lunar mystery, energies that seeped into the soil, quickening the growth of exotic blooms and stirring the dormant spirits of the land. The native guardians of Alola, the Tapu deities, did not greet these intruders with open arms. Tapu Koko, the electric sentinel of Melemele, crackled with righteous fury, its shell a vortex of thunder that split the sky in protest. Tapu Lele of Akala danced on psychic winds, unleashing cascades of mist and mind-bending illusions to repel the invaders. Tapu Bulu charged from Ulaula's grasses, horns goring the air with grass-wreathed might, while Tapu Fini summoned tidal barriers from Pony's seas, her elegant form a wall of unyielding water. These ancient protectors, born of the island's very essence, clashed against Solgaleo and Lunala in a battle that shook the archipelago to its roots. Shells rang like war drums against solar hides, electric bolts sizzled harmlessly off lunar wings, and the air filled with the scent of ozone, scorched earth, and blooming nightshade. Volcanic peaks belched smoke in sympathy, coconuts tumbled from shaken trees, and the kahunas of old chanted futile prayers from cliffside altars, their voices lost in the maelstrom. Yet, as the fray wore on, something profound shifted in the chaos. The Tapu paused, their assaults faltering under the weight of an undeniable truth. Solgaleo and Lunala were no conquerors. They were vessels of divinity, their forms radiating a purity that resonated with the island's own sacred pulse. One by one, the Guardians lowered their defenses, shells dimming from battle rage to solemn luminescence. Tapu Koko bowed first, its electric aura flickering in submission, followed by the others in a cascade of reverence that silenced the storms. The air grew still, heavy with the scent of rain-kissed petals and cooling lava as the Tapu recognized their celestial kin, pledging eternal vigilance under the Sun Lion and Moonbat's watchful gaze. From this pact emerged the Tapunium Z crystals, shards of that divine clash, forged in the crucible of combat and bestowed upon worthy trainers as emblems of harmony restored. In the aftermath, the Radiant One, whether Solgaleo basking in eternal day, or Lunala cloaked in velvet night, bestowed a final gift before vanishing back through the wormhole's maw. It left behind Cosmog, the star child, a fragile nebula of swirling gases and innocent wonder, entrusted to the care of the island's people and guardians. This ethereal infant, small enough to cradle in reverent hands, held within it the promise of perpetual protection, destined to evolve into the very forces that had descended. Raised in the hidden cradles of the altar of the Sunne and altar of the moon, Cosmog absorbed Alola's rhythms, the crash of waves on black sand beaches, the call of Wingull at dawn, the nocturnal symphony of nocturnal bats flitting through banyan canopies. The ancients played enchanted flutes carved from heartwood and pearl, their melodies guiding the star child's growth, ensuring that the light of ultraspace would forever safeguard the archipelago from shadows beyond. Generations passed, and the legend wove itself into Alola's soul, kings and queens building grand ziggurats to honor the duo, their thrones adorned with solar motifs and lunar crescents. Fishermen whispered of wormholes flickering on the horizon during solstices, omens of the Guardian's return. Children learned the tale by hearthfire, tracing the rift's path in the sand, dreaming of the day they might glimpse Solgaleo's roar or Lunala's flight. Yet whispers persist of greater threats lurking in ultra-space's depths, hungers that once devoured light itself. That hunger awakens in Chapter 17, the Necrozma crisis and the lost light, where a prism of terror steals the very brilliance from Alola's skies. What devoured the gods' glow, and can the island survive the eclipse? But beneath that radiant arrival of Solgaleo and Lunala lies a shadow, a fracture in the fabric of ultraspace itself. Ancient Alolan kahunas whispered of rifts not just carrying gifts, but hungers that could devour worlds. You see, the light those guardians brought was precious, fragile, and coveted by something far older, far more broken. A darker legend tells of Necrozma, a being that once radiated light but was shattered by ancient greed. Long before the kings of Alola raised their altars, in the boundless expanse of ultraspace, Necrozma shone as the primal source of all illumination. Its body was a prism of pure energy, casting beams that nurtured distant megacities and sustained entire ecosystems across fractured dimensions. Travelers from those realms spoke of it in hushed tones, a benevolent prism dragon whose glow pierced the eternal twilight between worlds, birthing stars and feeding the hungry voids. But humanity, in its endless thirst for power, sought to harness that light. Greedy hands, ancient tools forged from unknown alloys, pierced its crystalline form during a ritual gone catastrophically wrong. The shattering echoed through ultraspace like a scream silenced by vacuum, splintering Necrozma into jagged shards, its once vibrant core dimmed to a starving flicker. Now fractured and feral, Necrozma wanders the wormholes, a ghost of its former glory, driven by an insatiable void where its heart used to pulse with radiance. Necrozma seeks to reclaim its lost brilliance by consuming the light of other worlds and legendary Pokémon. It doesn't merely steal, it engulfs, pulling entire suns into its maw, draining the life from nebulae and the essence from cosmic beasts. In Alola, it first appeared as a harbinger, slipping through a wormhole to latch onto Lunala, the moon's emissary, twisting it into a vessel for its rage. The fusion birthed Dusk Mane Necrozma, a shadowed predator cloaked in electric fury, its spikes crackling with stolen lunar glow. Not satisfied, it turned to Solgaleo, the sun lion, merging into Dawn Wings Necrozma, wings like shattered stained glass blotting out daylight, eyes burning with pilfered solar fire. Witnesses described skies turning to ink, oceans freezing under absent warmth, as Necrozma siphoned the very photons that sustained the islands. The Alolan prophecy warns of a darkness that swallows the sun, a total eclipse of the soul. Carved into the walls of the ruins of hope, these words foretold an invader from beyond the veil, a black hole masquerading as light, come to eclipse not just the heavens, but the spirit of the land itself. Kahunas chanted it during moonless nights, their voices trembling. The beast would arrive cloaked in false brilliance, promising renewal, only to hollow out the guardians who welcomed it. Solgaleo and Lunala, born from Cosmog's evolution, were fated as its prey, their light the perfect salve for Necrozma's wounds. When it struck, Alola plunged into twilight terror, Zed moves failing against its adaptive armor, ultra wormholes ripping open like wounds in reality. The prophecy spoke of a soul-deep darkness, where even the bravest trainers felt their will flicker out, mirroring the fractured god's own despair. This tragedy unfolds as the story of a fallen god, desperate to feel whole again, no matter the cost. Picture the remnants of Necrozma's original form, those crystalline prongs twitching in the void, each shard a memory of lost splendor. It rampages not from malice, but from an existential ache, piecing itself back through theft, fusing with photon-sucking appendages that extend like desperate claws. In Ultra Megalopolis, its shattered state doomed that world to perpetual gloom. Citizens huddled in fabricated lights, their civilization crumbling under the weight of what they stole. Here in Alola, heroes wielded the blazing power and binding force to sever its grips. But even in defeat, Necrozma retreats to lick its wounds, plotting the next incursion. What drives such a being? A primal urge to mend, to glow as it once did, illuminating realms instead of extinguishing them. Yet every absorption warps it further, turning salvation into apocalypse, a cycle of greed echoing the very sin that broke it. Deep in the lore tablets of Pony Island, elders describe Necrozma's roars as mournful dirges, vibrations that shake the soul like a fading heartbeat. It targeted the Tapas not for sport, but necessity, their Zid power a tantalizing spark amid its famine. Lunala's psychic howls during the fusion pierced the night, a cry for Alola's lost light, while Solgaleo's metallic roars turned to gurgles under the strain. The crisis peaked at the altar of the Sunny, where wormholes hemorrhaged beasts, and Necrozma, bloated with stolen radiance, ascended to Ultra Necrozma, a dragon of pure destruction, light-bending wings folding space itself, a beam from its core capable of vaporizing mountains. Only the combined might of Alola's champions, channeling the Island Challenger's essence, could shatter the merge, banishing it back to the rifts. But legends persist, its shards still drift, waiting for the next world to dim. You can feel the weight of that loss in every shadowed corner of Ultra space, a reminder that even gods bleed light. Necrozma's saga blurs the line between villain and victim, its greed-born madness a mirror to our own. As Alola recovered, planting new life under restored suns, the prophecy lingered like a chill wind. Darkness always hungers, and wholeness comes at a price. But the wars of light and shadow pale against the conflicts brewing on the mortal plane, where even legendary guardians turn their blades on humanity itself. Coming up next in Chapter 18, The Swords of Justice and the Human Wars, we'll uncover how these noble warriors sparked a rebellion that nearly tore the world apart. Stick around, because their fight for the innocent reveals the rawest scars in Pokémon history. While legends of stolen light like Necrozma's cast long shadows across the stars. Down on the earth, a different kind of darkness began to spread, one forged not by cosmic hunger, but by human hands. As human civilizations grew, they began to wage wars that devastated the natural habitats of Pokémon, turning lush forests into scarred battlegrounds and rivers into poisoned veins. Smoke choked the skies over ancient Unova, where rival kingdoms clashed in endless feuds over land and power. Catapults hurled boulders that splintered ancient oaks, their roots homes to generations of Pokémon families. Flames from siege engines leaped from treetop to treetop, driving herds of deerling and sawsbuck into panicked flight, only to trample one another in the chaos. Warriors in gleaming armor marched across meadows, their spears and arrows claiming not just enemy lives, but the burrows of Diglett and the nests of Starly woven into the grass. The earth itself groaned under the weight of iron-shod boots and rumbling war machines, crushing the delicate ecosystems that had thrived for eons in delicate balance. Pokémon suffered silently at first, collateral in a conflict they never sought. A school of Timpole scattered as a bridge collapsed into their stream, the waters turning murky with silt and blood. Flocks of Pidove wheeled overhead, dropping exhausted from skies thick with ash, while herds of Blitzel stampeded blindly, their electric sparks igniting dry underbrush into infernos. Villages of Pokémon, those tight-knit communities of oddish tending night-blooming flowers or Sandshrew clans fortifying desert dunes, were uprooted overnight, their members left homeless wanderers in a world remade for human ambition. From these ashes rose three legendary figures, bound by unyielding justice and raw power. Cobalion, the noble steed of steel and iron will, its blue mane flowing like a banner of defiance, charged first into the fray. Its horns gleamed with the unbreaking resolve of mountains, piercing through barricades to shield the weak. Beside it thundered Terrakion, a colossal bull of rock and fury, its crimson hide cracked like ancient earth, hooves shattering enemy lines to create safe paths for fleeing Pokémon. Graceful Virizion danced through the melee, blades of grass-sharp energy slicing ropes that bound captives. Its emerald form a whirlwind of speed and precision, evading arrows while herding the vulnerable to safety. Cobalion, Terrakion, and Virizion formed a league to protect Pokémon from the collateral damage of human conflict, their bond forged in the heat of those first shared battles. They moved as one, a triad of might and mercy, striking not with blind rage but calculated strikes, toppling supply wagons to starve sieges, diverting rivers to flood encampments, always prioritizing the rescue of the innocent. Whispers spread among survivors. These were no mere beasts, but guardians sworn to an ancient code, their eyes burning with a fire humans could never quench. One fateful clash etched their legend forever. Amid the roar of a forest fire set by warring armies, torches flung in retreat igniting the heart of an ancient woodland, they heard a desperate cry piercing the crackle of flames. A young Keldeo, barely weaned from its herd, stood trapped on a crumbling ledge, its watery blasts too feeble against the encroaching blaze. Horns lowered, Cobalion led the charge, smashing through burning timbers. Terrakion uprooted a massive oak to form a bridge across the inferno. Virizion leaped ahead, her vines coiling around the foal to pull it free, just as embers rained down. Safe in a hidden glade, as Keldeo's flanks heaved with exhaustion, the trio gathered close. They taught it the philosophy of the sacred sword, not a weapon of vengeance, but a blade of pure intent, honed by justice to cut through injustice without needless cruelty. Cobalion demonstrated first, its horn glowing with ethereal light, channeling energy into a focused strike that cleaved a boulder clean without shattering the earth around it. Terrakion followed, its raw power tempered into a precise thrust, teaching control amid chaos. Virizion showed fluidity, the sword's arc a dance of grace that parted leaves without harm. Keldeo absorbed their wisdom, its own horn flickering to life, vowing to master this art and join their cause. This League of Four marked a turning point. The group represented the first organized resistance of Pokémon against the expansion of human industry, no longer scattered defenders, but a united front patrolling borders, sabotaging forges that belched smoke to poison skies, and rallying wild Pokémon into protective pacts. Humans spoke of them in hushed tones, the swords of justice, phantom warriors who vanished into mist, leaving behind felled war engines and liberated kin. Some chieftains sued for peace, offering tributes of untouched lands. Others doubled their fury, but found their campaigns crumbling under coordinated ambushes. Battles raged for seasons, the air thick with the clash of horn on shield, the scent of scorched metal, mingling with wildflowers crushed underfoot. Cobalion's strategies turned flanks, predicting human movements from afar. Terrakion's charges broke sieges like avalanches. Virizion's scouts evaded patrols, whispering warnings through the winds. Keldeo grew swiftly, its sacred sword evolving from novice spark to radiant beam, felling a cavalry charge single-hoofed and earning its place among legends. Yet victory was bittersweet. Habitats scarred by war healed slowly, meadows reclaiming craters one blade of grass at a time, rivers running clear only after moons of patient flow. The swords withdrew to mist-shrouded peaks, watching, waiting, eternal sentinels against any who would repeat humanity's folly. Their tale echoes through Unova's lore, a reminder that justice wields the sharpest edge. But whispers from those same misty heights hint at older powers stirring beneath Unova's soil, forces that even the swords regarded with awe, the legend of the original dragon of Unova, waiting to uncoil and reshape destinies once more. As human ambition ignited wars that scarred the earth and drove Pokémon from their homes, a different tale unfolded far across the waves in the vast, fertile lands of Unova. There, two princes, brothers bound by blood and vision, stood at the helm of destiny, commanding a single, colossal dragon whose power seemed limitless. This original dragon, a being of raw, untamed might, pulsed with the essence of creation itself, its scales shimmering like polished obsidian under Unova's endless skies. Together, these princes harnessed the dragon's fury to carve out a kingdom from wilderness. With its thunderous roars, they shattered mountains into tillable fields, summoned rains to swell rivers into lifelines, and drove back shadowed beasts that prowled the untamed frontiers. Villages sprouted like wildflowers after a storm, their thatched roofs clustering around grand stone halls where the princes held court. Trade routes snaked through emerald valleys, laden with silks from distant looms and grains heavy with the scent of sun-ripened earth. Prosperity bloomed under their rule. Feasts echoed with laughter, forges glowed through the night, crafting tools of iron and wonder, and the people whispered prayers not just to the princes, but to the dragon that shadowed their triumphs like a living eclipse. Yet beneath this golden age simmered a rift, growing wider with every council and every decree. The elder prince clung to truth, that unyielding pursuit of what is, stripped bare of illusion. He sought knowledge through relentless inquiry, dissecting the world's secrets with a gaze as sharp as a blade, measuring stars to chart their paths, probing the soil for hidden veins of ore, demanding proof in every claim. His brother, the younger, championed ideals, the dream of what could be, a perfect harmony forged not from cold facts, but from aspiration and unity. He envisioned societies unbound by harsh realities, where justice flowed like a river and every soul reached for greatness, even if it meant bending the world to fit the vision. Their debates turned to shouts, echoing through the throne room's vaulted arches, the air thick with the dragon's restless growls. What began as philosophical firestorms ignited the beast's core. The original dragon, torn between these clashing forces, could no longer contain its dual nature. In a cataclysmic rupture that shook Unova's foundations, earth splitting, skies fracturing like glass, it sundered itself. From its fiery heart emerged Reshiram, the vast white Pokémon, embodiment of truth, its turbine wings blazing with righteous flame, eyes burning with the clarity of absolute knowledge. From its stormy depths rose Zekrom, the vast black Pokémon avatar of ideals, crackling with electric fury, tail a generator of boundless potential, roaring for the ideals that propel humanity forward. But the division left a void, a hollow remnant adrift in the frozen wastes of Giant Chasm. This empty shell, once brimming with life, crystallized into Kyurem, the boundary Pokémon, a jagged, icy husk, its translucent form veined with perpetual frost, heart an aching chasm yearning for reunion. Kyurem wanders those bitter tundras even now, a silent sentinel, absorbing cold to stave off oblivion, its hollow gaze fixed on the horizon where its lost halves soar. Legends speak of its loneliness as a physical ache, frostbite creeping through its veins, driving it to merge once more, no matter the cost. The princes, each claiming their dragon as divine endorsement, plunged Unova into civil war. Reshiram's flames scorched battlefields into glass, illuminating the Elders' armies as they marched under banners of empirical banners. Zekrom's bolts rent the heavens, empowering the Younger's forces with visions of utopia, their charges thundering across blood-soaked plains. Castles crumbled, rivers ran red, and the once prosperous kingdom fractured into feuding realms, the people's songs of unity twisted into war chants. Brother turned against brother, truth weaponized into dogma, ideals corrupted into tyranny, until exhaustion claimed them both, their dragons vanishing into myth. This universe saga endures as a stark warning, etched in stone tablets and whispered by elders around hearth fires. Human ego, that insatiable hunger for supremacy, can shatter even the divine. What starts as shared power ends in divine dismemberment, a fractured god mirroring a broken world. The echoes of that war remind every generation that balance demands humility, lest the gods themselves pay the price for our pride. And as Unova's scars faded into legend, another region's ancient horror stirred, one involving a weapon of unimaginable destruction that nearly erased an entire civilization. Stay with me for Chapter 20, Kalos and the Ultimate Weapon, where the shadows of eternal war hide a truth that could unmake everything. I hope you're as amazed by this as I am. If you want to stay updated on more content like this, make sure to subscribe and join our community of curious minds. Trust me, what's coming next will challenge everything you thought you knew. As the flames of ideological strife consumed Unova's original dragon, splitting it into eternal rivals, the winds of history carried us to the shadowed heart of Kalos, where a single father's unbreakable sorrow birthed the most forbidden creation in Pokémon lore. 3,000 years ago, King AZ ruled over a kingdom drenched in the blood of endless war. His armies clashed with invaders in fields turned to mud by relentless rain and the cries of fallen Pokémon. But amid the chaos, tragedy struck closer to home. AZ's beloved Floette, a delicate flower Pokémon that had shared his throne and his laughter, perished on the battlefield, its tiny petals wilting under the weight of a stray arrow. The king, immortal in his grief, or perhaps cursed by it, refused to accept this loss. He poured his vast resources into secret laboratories hidden beneath the earth, where alchemists and engineers toiled under flickering torchlight. What emerged was no mere resurrection spell from fairy tales, but a colossal machine humming with arcane energy drawn straight from the life force of countless Pokémon. Captured beasts from every corner of Kalos, brave warriors, gentle companions were linked to its core, their vitality siphoned like rivers feeding an insatiable sea. The air grew thick with their fading pulses, a symphony of sacrifice echoing through stone corridors as the device pulsed brighter, coaxing Floette's spirit back from the veil. For a fleeting moment, triumph bloomed. Floette returned, hovering ethereally at Az's side, its colours vibrant once more. The king wept tears of gold, believing he had conquered death itself. Yet whispers spread through the court like poison in the wind. How many Pokémon had been drained to fuel this miracle? Their hollow shells littered the chambers, eyes dimmed forever. But war cared little for morality. As enemy hordes breached the capital's walls, flames licking the spires of Az's palace, desperation twisted invention into atrocity. The machine, now bloated with stolen life, was hoisted atop the highest tower and unleashed as the ultimate weapon. A beam of pure otherworldly light erupted skyward, then cascaded down in a cataclysmic wave. It swept across the battlefield like a god's judgment, vaporizing armies on both sides in an instant. Soldiers, siege engines, even the earth itself reduced to glowing ash. The war ended not with victory cheers, but with stunned silence, the horizon scarred by a crater that still scars Kalos to this day. Peace reigned, but at what cost? King Az's soul blackened under the weight of that light, his immortality now a prison of eternal regret, wandering the ages as a hollow king, forever seeking forgiveness from the life he had devoured. In the weapon's furious awakening, the fabric of Kalos trembled, ripping open ancient slumbers deep within the land. From sacred glades and shadowed caverns, two primordial forces stirred, Xerneas, the radiant stag embodying infinite life, its antlers blooming with eternal spring, and Wiltal, the harbinger of total death, wings unfurling like a shroud of crimson dusk. Born from the weapon's rampant energy, they embodied the merciless cycle that underpins all existence. Life surging forth only to wither into oblivion, a balance shattered by human hubris. Zexneus galloped through war-torn meadows, reviving wilted forests and bolstering the weary survivors with verdant glows that mended flesh and spirit alike. Yveltal soared overhead, claiming the unburied dead in sweeps of destructive grace, ensuring no soul lingered in limbo, their forms dissolving into nourishing dust for the cycle to renew. Legends say they clashed in the aftermath, horns locking against talons, a divine skirmish that reshaped Kalos' mountains and rivers, reminding mortals that meddling with life's essence invites forces beyond comprehension. Temples rose in their honor, carved with antlered motifs and winged silhouettes, where kings offered jewels and oaths to appease these awakened deities. Yet the ultimate weapon did not perish in its blaze. Az's, haunted by visions of drained Pokémon pleading in his dreams, dismantled its outer shell but could not destroy its heart. He buried it far beneath the kingdom's foundations, in a vault sealed with mechanisms only his blood could unlock, surrounded by murals of Floette's final bloom. There it slumbers still, a ticking time bomb of ancient technology, fused with divine sorrow, a relic pulsing faintly with residual life force, whispering temptations to those who seek power over death. Explorers in modern times speak of strange tremors near Geosenge town, ground quaking as if the earth mourns, and faint glows piercing the soil on moonless nights. What if another war awakens it? What forgotten Pokémon souls still echo within, waiting for release or revenge? Generations passed, and Kalos rebuilt atop those buried sins, but the ecosystem itself began to stir with watchful guardians, enforcing a fragile order against such recklessness. Up next, Chapter 21, the Zygarde Order and the Ecosystem, where a serpentine sentinel rises from the soil to judge humanity's balance with nature, and one wrong step could shatter the world anew. That ultimate weapon may have silenced the war machines of ancient Kalos, but it couldn't touch the silent watchers beneath the earth's skin. 3,000 years later, the scars of King Az's folly linger in the soil, a reminder that human ambition often tips the scales of life and death. Yet, in the shadowed heart of those same lands, another force endures, unyielding and unseen, enforcing a balance far older than any throne. Deep within the caves of Kalos, Zygarde monitors the balance between Xerneas and Weaveltal. Picture the labyrinthine depths, where bioluminescent fungi cast an eerie green glow on jagged walls, slick with moisture. Echoes of dripping water punctuate the stillness, and the air hangs heavy with the scent of damp stone and ancient moss. Here, Zygarde resides not as a single entity, but as a vast network of vigilance. Xerneas, the verdant stag of boundless life, pours vitality into forests and fields, coaxing blooms from barren ground and mending the wounds of winter. Yveltal, the crimson harbinger of destruction, reclaims that energy when cycles demand it, folding excess back into the earth to prevent stagnation. Their dance is eternal, a pulse of growth and decay that sustains the world. But Zygarde stands as arbiter, its senses attuned to every fluctuation, every overreach that might shatter the harmony. Composed of thousands of individual cells, Zygarde acts as the planet's immune system. These cells, each a tiny green hexagon pulsing with otherworldly energy, scatter across the globe like antibodies on patrol. They burrow into soil, cling to tree roots, drift through ocean currents, and even infiltrate urban sprawl, invisible sentinels numbering in the tens of thousands. In times of equilibrium, they wander aimlessly, feeding on data from the environment, the rustle of leaves, the migration of herds, the subtle shifts in biodiversity. A sudden die-off of species, cells converge. A plague of invasive flora choking native life, more gather. They communicate through faint electromagnetic pulses, a hive mind without a queen, assessing threats with mechanical precision. When the imbalance grows acute, These cells assemble into Zygarde's core form, a serpentine guardian that slithers through the underbelly of the world, coiling around roots and veins of ore to restore order. This isn't benevolence driven by emotion. Zygarde embodies the cold calculus of survival. It calculates carrying capacities, predator-prey ratios, nutrient flows with the impartiality of a vast algorithm. Forests might flourish under Xerneas's touch, only for Weeviltal's shadow to cull the weak, preventing overpopulation from collapsing the canopy. Human expansion? Pokémon overhunting? Industrial poisons seeping into rivers? Zygarde observes, quantifies, intervenes only when the data demands it. Legends whisper of villages vanishing overnight, swallowed by vines or quakes, not out of malice, but because the human footprint exceeded sustainable limits. Entire ecosystems recalibrated, species culled not for cruelty, but for the greater continuity. Rarely does it escalate. Zygarde's standard forms, a 10% assembly like a sleek, watchful hound, or the 50% aura-wreathed serpent, suffice for most corrections. They dismantle poacher camps with seismic tremors, redirect invasive swarms into chasms, neutralize pollutants through crystalline filtration. But when cataclysms loom, threats that eclipse regional woes like a mega-evolution arms race poisoning the atmosphere, or an otherworldly invasion devouring biospheres, Zygarde stirs fully. It only reveals its complete form when the ecosystem is under a threat that no other god can handle. Thousands of cells flood inward, fusing in a symphony of light and shadow within Kalos's deepest chasms. The ground trembles as Zygarde emerges, a colossal dragon of interlocking segments, armored in emerald scales that shift like living tectonic plates. Eyes like glowing fissures scan the horizon, and its roar resonates through ley lines, summoning seismic fury. In this form, it has clashed with forces that would unravel creation itself, shattering armies of aberrations or binding rampaging titans in coils of unbreakable earth. Witnesses describe a being of pure necessity, wings unfurling to blot the sky, tail lashing tsunamis into submission, not for glory, but to excise the infection. Zygarde represents the cold, calculated side of nature that prioritizes the planet over any single species. While Xerneas gifts life with radiant abandon, and Weeviltal enforces entropy with primal fury, Zygarde is the scalpel, indifferent to pleas or hierarchies. Pokémon trainers who summon it in desperation learn this harshly. It disperses cells post-battle, resuming its vigil without allegiance. Ancient Kalosian texts, etched in cavern walls, call it the Order, a counterweight to the chaos of gods like Aze's weapon or Lysandra's delusions of perfection. It doesn't nurture, it sustains. Cities crumble if they poison too many rivers. Species go extinct if they unbalance the chain. In Zygarde's ledger, no legendaries rank above microbes, no human king above the humus they till. This is nature's unfeeling math, the ecosystem first, always. And yet, for all its isolation in those Kalos depths, Zygarde's gaze extends to distant seas, where other guardians weave their own threads of legend. Up next in Chapter 22, The Sea Prince and the Temple of the Sea, you'll uncover a submerged palace hiding royal secrets, and a prince whose bond with the oceans rivals Zygarde's dominion over land. Could this watery realm hold the key to balance no cave could contain? While Zygarde's cells pulse silently in Kalos's depths, enforcing equilibrium between life and decay on land, the oceans hold their own eternal vigil, one far more elusive, carried on tides that whisper secrets older than stone. Beneath the endless blue expanse, where sunlight fractures into shimmering veils, a legend endures of wanderers who command the hidden currents threading every sea. These are no mere Pokémon drifting with the waves. They are the unseen stewards of the planet's watery veins, born from the foam of creation itself, long before harbors dotted coastlines or fleets carved paths across the waves. Water types revered a lineage tied to the nomadic soul of the deep, a spiritual heritage that saw oceans not as borders, but as living pathways for all life to migrate and renew. At the heart of this tale lies Samia, the Temple of the Sea. This colossal structure, forged from living coral and pearl that gleams like captured moonlight, drifts through the world's oceans, forever nomadic. It defies the pull of anchors and storms, guided by rhythms only the purest can sense. The Temple of the Sea, Samir, drifts through the world's oceans, invisible to those with malice in their hearts. Sailors of old spoke of it in hushed tones around flickering lanterns, a mirage that appeared to the worthy, vanishing like mist before the greedy or vengeful. Its walls etched with glyphs that glow under bioluminescent schools of fish, house chambers where time pools like still water, preserving relics from eras when the seas were young and untamed. Guarding Samir's sanctity are Manaphy and Fione, revealed as the guardians of the ocean's hidden currents. Manaphy, the radiant prince of the sea, embodies the fluid grace of the tides, small yet boundless, with eyes like sapphire whirlpools that pierce illusions. Beside it swims Fione, its steadfast kin, born from the same primordial egg, but marked by the sea's humble servitude, their bodies armoured in crystalline shells that chime softly against the pressure of abyssal trenches. Together, they navigate the undercurrents, those invisible rivers snaking beneath surface swells, channeling nutrients from polar melts to equatorial reefs, ensuring plankton blooms feed the mightiest leviathans. This legend connects the water-type Pokémon to a nomadic spiritual heritage that predates modern cities. Picture vast migrations of ancient Lapras herds, guided by Fione's calls through fog-shrouded straits, or Swampert clans performing rituals at temporary shrines of woven kelp, honouring the prince's lineage. Empoleon kings once led flotillas across uncharted waters, their crests bowed to the drifting temple, while nomadic tribes of humans, fisherfolk with tattoos of swirling vortices, offered pearls and songs to summon Samir's glimpse. These water Pokémon weren't conquerors of land, they were pilgrims of the fluid world. Their myths woven into the salt spray, teaching that true power flows without possession, adapting like waves to every shore. The Prince of the Sea ensures that the life-giving currents of the world never stop flowing. Manaphy's heart beats in sync with these streams, mending rips caused by primal clashes, perhaps the echoes of Kyogre's ancient rages, or the seismic tremors from Gruden's stirrings. When pollution's shadow creeps or ships fracture the balance, the prince summons tempests of gentle redirection, herding toxins into dead zones while revitalizing barren gyres. Fione multiply in devotion, forming living barriers around Samir, their bubbles forming shields that refract malice into harmless rainbows. In times of great peril, the prince ventures forth, its melody a haunting lullaby carried on dolphin pods, awakening dormant springs, flooding parched deltas, binding the ocean's pulse to the planet's breath. Whispers persist of seekers who pierced Samir's veil, a child pure of intent, bonding with Manaphy through trials of underwater labyrinths where illusions tested the soul's tide. They emerged changed, carrying eggs that hatched new guardians, perpetuating the cycle. Even today, rare sightings off Hoenn's coasts or Unova's straits hint at the temple's passage, a reminder that the sea remembers its royals, indifferent to maps drawn by those above. Yet, as these oceanic sentinels weave their endless patrol, shadows stir in the emerald canopies of forgotten groves, where a protector cloaked in vines awaits its own reckoning. Coming up in Chapter 23, the myth of the Forest Guardian. As the Temple of the Sea drifts silently through the world's oceans, concealing itself from any heart tainted by malice, the ancient forests of Johto hold their own veiled protector, a mythical being whose very presence echoes through the branches like a forgotten melody. Deep within the heart of Ilex Forest, where sunlight filters through a canopy so dense it paints the ground in eternal twilight, locals have long spoken of a guardian that doesn't stand sentinel against intruders, but emerges only when harmony reigns supreme. This is Celebi, known across generations as the voice of the forest, a delicate, fairy-like Pokémon with a translucent green body that shimmers like dew-kissed leaves. Unlike the raging seas or the battle-scarred lands we've explored, Celebi doesn't wield thunderous power or armoured might. Instead, it possesses an extraordinary gift, the ability to traverse the timelines themselves, slipping through the fabric of time like a breeze through ancient oaks. Legends from Johto's elders describe how Celebi dances between eras, its tiny form leaving behind sparkling trails that heal wilted flora and mend broken paths, a living bridge between what was, what is, and what might yet bloom. Picture the forest in those rare moments of perfect peace. No axes ringing against trunks, no fires scarring the earth, no human strife spilling into the wilds. That's when Celebi appears, not as a warrior charging into battle, but as a gentle harbinger, foretelling a prosperous future for the natural world. Sightings are whispered about in hushed tones around campfires, a child lost in the woods suddenly finding their way home, guided by a glowing figure, barren groves bursting into flower overnight, rivers running clearer after years of murk. These encounters aren't random. They signal that the balance is restored, that the scars of war and greed are fading, promising abundance for Pokémon and nature alike. What makes Celebi's myth so profound is the hope it instills in the timeline's fragility. In a world shaped by Arceus's hand, where Dialga commands the relentless flow of time, and Palkia stretches the bounds of space, Celebi reveals that history isn't an unyielding chain. The existence of Celebi suggests that the timeline is not fixed and can be healed by the divine, its journeys proving that past wounds can be revisited, altered, soothed. Devastated forests ravaged by the very human wars that birthed the swords of justice. Celebi has been seen weaving through those dark chapters, nurturing saplings in eras long thought lost, pulling threads from fractured moments to stitch a verdant tomorrow. It's as if the forest itself holds the power to rewrite its own destiny, with Celebi as the needle and thread. This timeless wanderer ties directly to the sacred Ilex Shrine, a weathered wooden structure nestled at the forest's core, its carvings worn smooth by centuries of rain and reverent hands. Here, local folklore has preserved the memory of time-traveling deities like no other place in the Pokémon world. Pilgrims leave offerings of berries and fresh water, reciting tales passed down from trainers who vanished into the shrine's glow only to re-emerge years younger, their memories laced with visions of flourishing glades. The shrine isn't just stone and timber, it's a living archive where carvings depict Celebi encircled by swirling portals, flanked by ancient trees that locals swear shift positions overnight. Johto's people guard these stories fiercely, knowing they encode warnings and wonders, disturb the forest in times of discord, and Celebi remains hidden, foster peace, and the voice returns, ensuring the wilds endure. Delve deeper into the shrine's lore, and you uncover rituals that hint at Celebi's broader role in the divine hierarchy. Elders speak of a forest covenant, where Celebi communes with other guardians, echoes of Manaphy's oceanic whispers, Zygarde's earthen vigilance, forming an unseen network that pulses across regions. In times of ecological peril like the primal clashes of Hoenn or Unova's dragon schism, Celebi's absence is ominous, a silence that forewarns catastrophe. But when it manifests, often atop the shrine during solstice moons, its psychic aura resonates, calming rampaging herds and drawing migratory flocks back to bountiful groves. Trainers who've bonded with Celebi describe a profound empathy, a shared consciousness where human regrets dissolve into the rustle of leaves, replaced by visions of healed landscapes stretching into infinity. These encounters ripple beyond Johto, challenging our understanding of time's sovereignty. If Dialga forges the river of moments, Celebi is the eddy that loops back, allowing divine intervention to prune destructive branches. Folklore ties it to Mew's ancient DNA, suggesting Celebi as a specialized evolution of that primordial ancestor, attuned solely to verdant realms. In peaceful epochs, it scatters time flutes, crystalline artifacts that summon it anew, buried under mossy roots for future generations to discover. One legend recounts a village on the brink of famine, where a farmer unearthed such a flute. Celebi arrived, timelines blurring as it transplanted ripe fruits from prosperous futures, saving the community and etching its myth deeper into collective memory. The Ilex Shrine stands as proof of folklore's enduring power, a repository where oral traditions safeguard truths that games and scholars might overlook. Carvings show Celebi not alone, but with shadowy companions, perhaps echoes of other mythicals hinting at a council of timeline weavers. Locals perform annual voice vigils, silent nights under the shrine, where participants attune their spirits, sometimes glimpsing Celebi's form phasing through veils of time. These practices preserve not just stories, but a worldview that humanity's harmony with nature invites divine stewardship, turning potential ruin into renewal. As whispers of Celebi fade into the rustling canopy, leaving us to ponder timelines that bend to benevolence, ancient constructs stir from continental slumber, born from a creator's dread of humanity's unchecked might. In Chapter 24, the Regi golems and the fear of man, we'll uncover golems forged in ice, rock and steel, awakening to confront the very builders who birthed them, what hidden terror drove their colossal guardian to seal them away, and what happens when that fear reawakens today. While Celebi glides through timelines untouched by malice, weaving threads of harmony for forests yet to bloom, humanity's bond with certain guardians twisted into something far darker, a primal dread that led them to betray the very titans they once revered. Deep in the shadowed annals of Pokémon history, before the clamor of wars and prophecies echoed across regions, there strode Regigigas, a colossal behemoth of stone and sinew, its eyes glowing with an unblinking yellow fire. Towering over mountains, this ancient architect gripped the Earth's crust like a child clutching clay, hauling entire continents across oceans to forge the lands we know today. Legends whisper that it dragged the supercontinent from the frozen poles, molding Hoenn's jagged coasts and Sinnoh's icy spires with hands that could pulverize bedrock. But Regigigas didn't labor alone. From its raw essence, it sculpted three lesser golems, Regirock, forged from unyielding granite veined with molten fury, Regice, a crystalline fortress exhaling blizzards that could entomb armies, and Registeel, hammered from a metal unknown to modern forges, impervious to blade or flame. At first, these behemoths were humanity's saviors, summoned in eras when seas swallowed villages and quakes rent the soil. Tribes carved idols in their likeness, offering slabs of rare ore and chants that shook the ground, pleading for the golems to reshape the world in man's favor. Regigigas answered, its slow, earth-shuddering steps, parting floods and steadying fault lines. While the trio patrolled borders, their forms silhouetted against storm-racked skies. Picture the awe, flickering torchlight on rune-etched walls, elders recounting how Regirock lifted boulders to dam raging rivers, saving harvest fields from ruin. These weren't mere beasts, they were gods incarnate, bridges between the divine spark of Arceus and the fragile pulse of mortal life. Yet reverence curdled into terror as the golems might proved unbound. Regis wandered tundras, flash-freezing wanderers who strayed too close, their screams silenced under eternal ice. Regirock's rages cracked canyons, burying settlements in avalanches of stone. Registeel, silent and relentless, crushed invading hordes but spared none in its path, human or otherwise. Regigigas itself, once a benevolent hauler, grew erratic in its dormancy, its slow awakening heralded by quakes that toppled temples. Whispers spread through huddled clans. These creators demanded no tribute beyond obedience, but their power warped the land indiscriminately, birthing chasms where cities once stood. Ancient humans grew so terrified of Regigigas and its golems that they sealed them away in remote locations, tucking Regirock into sun-scorched desert ruins beneath Hoenn's sands, consigning Regis to a glacial cavern off Dewford's waves, and entombing Registeel in the labyrinthine depths of an ancient tomb shrouded by jungle mists. Regigigas slumbered deepest in Sinnoh's Snowpoint Temple, its massive form wedged into a shrine of fractured ice, bound by chains forged from its own fallen debris. Those who orchestrated the sealing weren't fools driven by blind panic. They were scholars and shamans, versed in the old tongues, who etched their final acts into the very walls of these prisons. Scattered across cavern floors and pedestal faces, braille inscriptions gleam under torchlight, dots raised like braille warnings from a bygone age. For generations, adventurers mistook them for riddles, puzzles to coax the golems back to wakefulness. Move this stone, stand on that pressure plate, align the relics just so. But peel back the myth, and the truth chills deeper. These weren't invitations, but desperate pleas etched in desperation. Beyond this door lies the guardian of ice. Awaken it not, lest blizzards claim the world anew. The stone titan sleeps. Disturb its rest, and mountains will weep. The braille puzzles left behind are revealed to be warnings rather than instructions for awakening, a final safeguard from those who knew the golem's fury too well. This betrayal marks a pivotal fracture in the saga of gods and men. The Regi line represents the first major rift where humans actively tried to imprison the gods they once worshipped, shifting from supplication to subjugation. No longer content to coexist, ancient peoples wielded forbidden rites, infusing temple seals with the life essence of sacrificed Pokémon, layering curses drawn from Lake Trio knowledge to bind limbs that once shaped realms. Ceremonies unfolded under blood moons, with high priests chanting in windswept ruins, their voices mingling with the groan of shifting earth as golem eyes dimmed to dull glows. It was an act of hubris, born not of malice but survival, echoing the primal wars of Grudon and Kyogre, yet uniquely human, the audacity to chain divinity itself. Millennia have passed since those seals clicked shut, the golem's roars fading to echoes in forgotten lore. Their isolation for millennia has turned them into relics of a forgotten, more dangerous era, slumbering sentinels whose reactivation stirs only catastrophe. Modern trainers who stumble upon these sites feel the weight, a hush in the air, the faint tremor of colossal breaths. The braille's dots cool under fingertips like a final, unspoken admonition. Rigigigas stirs only when its kin stand reunited before it, a contingency humans dared not test, lest the architect reclaim its unfinished work with cataclysmic zeal. But even in this age of sealed titans, shadows of greater mischief linger among the Earth's hidden overseers, pulling strings from realms unseen. Next, in Chapter 25, the hidden role of Hoopa and the Djinn will uncover how a trickster unbound nearly unraveled the very hierarchies these golems enforced, what chaos unfolds when a gatekeeper turns jailer. While humans cowered before the colossal might of Regigigas and its golem children, sealing them away with trembling hands and cryptic braille warnings, another force stirred in the shadows of Hoenn's ancient myths, one that even the earth gods themselves couldn't fully contain. This was Hoopa, the enigmatic Djinn, whose rings twisted reality like threads in a cosmic loom. Deep in the lore of Hoenn, where Grudon and Kyogre waged their endless wars over land and sea, lesser deities known as the forces of nature rampaged unchecked. Tornadus whipped tempests across the skies, Thundurus hurled lightning that scorched the horizons, and Landorus unleashed earthquakes that split mountains asunder. These were no mere Pokémon. They embodied the raw fury of the elements, gods of wind, thunder, and earth who answered to no one. Or so it seemed. Legends whisper of a higher power, a supreme overseer who once commanded their chaos with effortless authority. Hoopa Unbound, revealed as the god of earth gods. Picture those early days, when Hoopa's unbound form towered like a genie from forgotten tales, its 6 golden rings floating in defiance of gravity, portals to anywhere and everywhere. Through those rings, it could summon any legendary being, pulling titans from distant realms into the fray. Rayquaza from the Ozone Heights, the legendary birds from Johto's towers, even echoes of Sinnoh's creation trio, nothing was beyond its grasp. Hoopa reveled in this dominion, orchestrating battles and pranks on a godly scale, bending the world's legends to its whims. The forces of nature bowed before it, their storms quelled by a mere flick of those ethereal hoops. But power like that breeds hubris. Hoopa's arrogance swelled until it challenged the very balance Arceus had woven into existence. It toyed with the primal clash of Grudon and Kyogre, summoning rivals to prolong the chaos, laughing as continents cracked and oceans boiled. The other gods grew wary. Even Rayquaza, the demigod of demigods, sensed the unraveling order. In a cataclysmic reckoning, Hoopa's might was stripped away, sealed within a prison bottle by forces aligned with the creator itself. What emerged was no longer the unbound colossus, but a smaller, mischievous form, confined, playful, yet eternally scheming. Those rings remained, smaller now, but still gateways to mischief, a reminder of the power that once was. This transformation explains so much about the legendaries scattered across the Pokémon world. Why does a creature like Entei roam the peaks of Johto, when its origins tie to distant fires? How does Jirachi appear in the deserts of Hoenn, far from its starry Sinnoh cradle? Hoopa's rings provide the answer. They're the hidden conduits, whisking gods to regions where they don't naturally belong, threading chaos through the tapestry of myths. A Lugia sighted in Kalos waters, a Mewtwo echo in Galar's ruins. Each anomaly traces back to those golden portals, Hoopa's lingering joke on the structured world. In the grand hierarchy under Arceus, where Dialga ticks the clock of time, Palkia stretches the fabric of space, and Giratina guards the distortions, Hoopa stands apart as the trickster god. It's the chaotic wildcard, the unpredictable spark that disrupts the divine order. While the Lake Trio bestows knowledge, emotion, and will upon humanity, and the nobles of Hisui maintain seasonal harmony, Hoopa delights in upending it all. Its sealed state only amplifies the irony. A pint-sized prankster harboring the essence of a god who could summon apocalypses. Yet whispers persist of the prison bottle's fragility. Legends from Kalos ruins to Alola's altars hint at seekers who might uncork that ancient vessel, unleashing the unbound fury once more. What havoc would those rings wreak in a world already teetering from primal wars and meteor falls? The forces of nature still stir without their overseer, their tempests a pale shadow of the anarchy Hoopa once commanded. As Hoopa's tale fades into the mists of Hoenn's primal battles, a new thread emerges from Sinnoh's ancient chains, one that binds heroes to gods in a prophecy foretold for our modern age. Coming up next in Chapter 26, The Modern Prophecy and the Red Chain, you'll discover how a simple artifact could summon the end of days or the dawn of unity, pulling even Arceus's creations into humanity's desperate grasp. Stay with me as the myths converge. Hoopa's sealing in that prison bottle wasn't just a punishment for its hubris, it was a reminder that even the mightiest among the legendaries could be humbled by forces beyond their rings. But fast forward to the bustling cities and misty peaks of modern Sinnoh, where the shadows of ancient myths stretch long into the neon glow of today. Here, human greed doesn't just poke at divine power, it tries to chain it outright. In the present day, the myths of Sinnoh converge as Team Galactic attempts to forge the Red Chain. This shadowy organization, led by the cold visionary Cyrus, sees the world's chaos not as something to live with, but as a flaw to erase. They burrow into the icy caverns of Lake Acuity, the verdant shores of Lake Verity, and the stormy depths of Lake Valor, hunting the ethereal guardians who dwell there. Uxie, Misbreet, and Azelf, the Lake Trio, float like living jewels in their hidden realms, embodiments of knowledge, emotion, and willpower that Arceus once bestowed upon humanity itself. Team Galactic doesn't come to worship, they come to capture. Picture the sterile labs humming beneath Mount Coronet, where scientists in crisp uniforms extract shimmering fragments from the trio's very essence. Those fragments twist and fuse in alchemical forges, glowing with an unnatural crimson hue, until the Red Chain takes form, a brutal artifact pulsing with stolen divinity. It's no mere trinket. This chain is designed to bind the unbindable, forged from the fractured souls of the Lake's guardians to leash the creators of time and space themselves. The plan to use the Lake Trio to enslave Dialga and Palkia threatens to reset the entire universe. Cyrus climbs to the Spear Pillar, that fractured summit where the fabric of reality thins, winds howling like the cries of forgotten gods. Dialga, the steel-clad sovereign of time, materializes first, its roar echoing backward and forward through eternities. Diamond-hard claws scraping against the flow of moments. Palkia follows, a pearlescent behemoth warping space, with every lumbering step folding distances into knots. Linked by the red chain, they strain against their bonds, the air crackling with temporal distortions and spatial rifts. Mountains flicker out of existence, stars stutter in the sky. Cyrus's dream? To shatter this imperfect universe and birth a new one in his image, sterile, emotionless, eternal. No life, no conflict, just perfect nothingness. You can feel the weight of it in the crumbling pillars, the ground quaking as reality unravels thread by thread. The lake trio, weakened and chained nearby, their eyes dimmed to hollow glows, watch helplessly as their power fuels the apocalypse. Team Galactic's grunts swarm the heights, their Pokémon clashing in futile defense of their boss's madness. But this isn't some abstract tale whispered in Sinnoh's ruins. This event proves that the ancient gods are not just stories, but active forces that can be manipulated by human greed. Dialga's temporal roars bend clocks in nearby Veilstone City. Palkia's spatial fury swallows chunks of Route 228 whole. The myths etched into the walls of Sinnoh, tales of Arceus shaping the egg of creation, suddenly pulse with urgency. They're alive, intervening, raging against the chains that dare to mock their sovereignty. And yet, amid the cosmic storm, a flicker of hope emerges. A young trainer, marked by destiny, much like the ancient hero of Hisui, steps forward. This chosen human, guided by the bonds forged with their Pokémon, shatters the red chain's hold. Dialga and Palkia break free, their unleashed fury turning on Cyrus's crumbling empire. It's no coincidence. The intervention of a chosen human mirrors the ancient hero of Hisui, fulfilling a multi-millennial cycle. Back in those wild frontier days, that hero calmed rampaging nobles and quelled threats to the land's balance, wielding plates blessed by Arceus against forces that sought to upend the world. Now, millennia later, the wheel turns again. A humble challenger, perhaps you in your own journey through Sinnoh's roots, stands where legends once tread. The spear pillar cracks under the god's wrath. Team Galactic scatters into the shadows, and the universe exhales, spared from rebirth. The echoes of that battle linger in every Pokémon Center heal, every gym badge earned, a quiet testament to how close we came to oblivion. But what binds all these threads, from Arceus's egg to Hoopa's rings, from primal seas to galactic chains, into one unbreakable tapestry? That's the revelation waiting in Chapter 27, the synthesis of all myths, where every god, every prophecy, snaps into perfect, universe-shaking alignment. Stay with me as it unfolds. But even as Team Galactic's reckless ambition teeters on the brink of unraveling Dialga and Palkia's dominion over time and space, a deeper pattern emerges from the shadows of history, one that binds these modern echoes to the cataclysms of old. The Pokémon world didn't spring into being flawless. It was forged in cycles of rupture and repair, where cosmic forces clash and heroes rise to stitch the fabric back together. Consider the threads we've unraveled so far. The meteor's crimson scar across Gala's skies, the primal fury of Hoenn's land and sea devouring each other, the Sinnoh cradle where Arceus first exhaled the breath of creation. These aren't isolated fables whispered by campfires in distant regions. They interlock into a single, unbroken timeline, a grand chronicle etched into the world's bones. Picture the dawn. Arceus hatches from that primordial egg in the endless void, birthing Dialga to weave the rivers of time, Palkia to stretch the canvas of space, and Giratina to guard the twisted undercurrents of antimatter. From this genesis flows the shaping of continents, the seeding of life through Mu's versatile essence, the guardianship of the lake trio over human spirit. Eons pass, and the earth stirs with primal gods, Groudon awakening magma veins to heave up land masses, Kyogre summoning torrents to claim the depths until their war boils the oceans dry and scorches the skies, only quelled when Rayquaza coils from the ozone like a serpent of judgment. Much later, that fateful meteor plummets into Gala, cracking open Eternatus's endless hunger, its Dynamax beams twisting Pokémon into rampaging colossi, until Zacian and Zamazenta, blade and shield forged in prophecy, drive it into dormancy beneath the earth. Sinnoh's myths frame the origin. Hoenn, the first great schism of nature's titans, Galar, a resurgence of otherworldly invasion, all pulsing along the same arc, separated by millennia but united in purpose. At the heart of this timeline throbs a relentless duel, balance against chaos, the eternal tug-of-war defining every corner of the Pokémon universe. Groudon and Kyogre embody it in their elemental grudge, land devouring sea as sea floods land, a chaos Rayquaza megasizes to enforce equilibrium from above. Eternatus floods Galar with infinite energy, warping life into grotesque excess, countered by the hero's measured restraint, Zacian slicing through the storm, Zamazenta absorbing the onslaught. Even Sinnoh's creation teeters on this knife edge, Giratina's banishment to the distortion world a necessary counterweight to prevent Dialga and Palkia's powers from collapsing into void. Hoopa's unbound hubris once summoned these forces recklessly through golden rings, tipping scales toward anarchy until sealed away. The Regi golems, hewn by Regigigas from mountain, glacier, and iron, patrol this fragile order, their braille-sealed tombs a testament to humanity's fear of unleashing imbalance anew. Celebi mends timelines frayed by discord. Manaphy guides oceanic harmony. Every legend, every war, a verse in this cosmic symphony where chaos swells like a tidal wave, only to crash against the bulwarks of balance. And overseeing it all, Arceus lingers not as a thunderous king issuing edicts from a throne, but as a silent observer, vast and withdrawn, its thousand arms folded across the multiverse. Plates of every type gleam in its temple vaults, remnants of power lent sparingly to the ancient Sinnoh hero and his 10 companions, to Rayquaza in ozone solitude, never wielded by Arceus itself except when the foundational laws fracture beyond repair. Legends whisper of its rare descents, shattering spear pillar to thwart those chaining its creations, or perhaps earlier, when primal wars threaten to unmake the plate's essence. It watches Ho-Oh resurrect purity from Brass Tower's ashes, Lugia calm the sea's tempests, the Tapis cradle Cosmog's fragile light. Arceus doesn't micromanage the squabbles of demigods or mortals. It intervenes solely when time unravels, space folds inward, or antimatter bleeds into reality, silent until the symphony risks silence forever. This is why the religions splinter across regions, each a fractured lens on the same blinding truth. Sinnoh clans revere Arceus as the Alpha, Diamond and Pearl Wardens tending nobles as living echoes of its will. Hoenn folk sing of Rayquaza, the Sky Highness, mediator above squabbling continents, while Alola's kings etch flutes to summon Solgaleo and Lunala from ultra voids, guardians birthed in balance. Galar's prophecy carves Zacian and Zamazenta into stone as wolf saviors. Johto's towers honor Ho-Oh's rainbow bridge and Lugia's deep currents. Landorus heralds spring's thaw in Hisui. Enamorous dances winds of renewal, yet all gaze upward to the same origin, interpreting Arceus's grand design through local veils. The Diamond Clan's rigid cycles, Pearl's fluid flows, primal reversion as chaos reclaimed, Dynamax's energy's wild pulse tamed. No contradiction, just perspectives orbiting one cosmic core, where humans offer berries to wardens, etch braille warnings, play ancient melodies, rituals binding mortal hands to divine equilibrium. As these myths converge, revealing a world suspended between shatter and salve, we glimpse the horizon where prophecies don't end, but loop eternally. What lies ahead in the future of the lore and the eternal cycle? The answers promise to redefine every legend we've traced, pulling us deeper into the wheel that never stops turning. This timeless struggle between balance and chaos, woven through the Galar meteor's fury, the primal clashes of Hoenn's depths, and the very birth of Sinnoh's stars, reveals a universe not forged once and for all, but locked in an endless rhythm. Cycles upon cycles where creation rises from ruin, gods slumber only to stir, and the line between mortal and divine blurs once more. Consider the whispers carried on winds from uncharted horizons. As new regions are discovered, the mythology continues to expand, hinting at even older progenitor deities, entities whose shadows stretch back before the primordial egg ever cracked open in the void. In places like Paldea, where ancient stones murmur of paradox and time's fragile weave, we glimpse fragments of lore that challenge Arceus as the absolute beginning. Carved into weathered ruins, tales speak of formless beings, vast and incomprehensible, who seeded the chaos from which the egg emerged, progenitors who shaped the raw potential of existence itself, long before Dialga ticked the first second or Palkia stretched the first void. These aren't mere legends of local guardians, they're echoes of a deeper genesis, suggesting Arceus was but one child in a lineage of cosmic architects, their plates not the origin of power, but vessels channeling something far more ancient. Feel the weight of those inscriptions under your fingertips, cool and unyielding, as if the stone itself remembers the tremors of their awakening. Expeditions into these lands uncover murals depicting colossal silhouettes, neither Pokémon nor human, birthing wheels of light that birthed wheels of light, layer upon layer, until our familiar pantheon took form. What if Mew, the genetic ancestor, carries not just Pokémon DNA, but traces of these elder ones? Or if the distortion world's Giratina guards not just antimatter, but a rift to their forgotten realm? Each new map unfolded pulls back another veil, inviting us to question how many progenitors lie dormant, their cycles overlapping ours, waiting for imbalance to summon them forth. And woven through this expanding tapestry is the evolving bond between humans and Pokémon, shifting from worship to partnership, and potentially back again. In the dawn eras of Hisui, humans knelt before noble Pokémon, offering berries and chants under aurora skies, seeing divinity in every roar and wing beat. Diamond and Pearl clans tended their charges like priests at eternal altars, the land itself a temple to Arceus's will. Yet time eroded those divides. Trainers rose, Pokeballs bridging spirits once deemed untouchable, turning gods into allies in battles of sport and survival. You command Rayquaza's fury not through prayer, but through the flash of a master ball. Zacian and Zamazenta stand not as saviors on thrones, but as partners in the league's roar. But cycles turn, don't they? Feel the pull of reversion in the air, the mega-evolutions that demand stones echoing ancient plates, Gigantamax forms that mimic Eternatus's chaotic surge, terrestrial phenomena reshaping essences like the whims of capricious deities. Modern prophets in lab coats and arena lights speak of harmony, yet disasters loom. Ultra beasts slipping through wormholes, paradox Pokémon unraveling timelines. Humans, once worshippers, now tamper as equals, but hubris brews. What if partnership frays under unchecked ambition, Team Galactic's red chain, but a prelude to global rights? Villages in distant isles still sing to tapas at moonrise, and whispers grow of a return to reverence, where trainers become wardens once more, bowing to the eternal guardians whose power we never truly tamed. This rhythm, this eternal cycle, pulses in the myths themselves, a heartbeat echoing across eons. Picture the Hall of Origin, that ethereal sanctum high above Sinnoh's peaks, where veils between realms thin and stars align in perfect symmetry. There, the alpha Pokémon, Arceus, resides in quiet vigil, not as a conqueror enthroned, but as the architect poised at the wheel's edge. Legends murmur of its plates humming softly, attuned to the universe's breath, ready to shatter and reform if chaos overwhelms balance once too often. The universe remains a mystery, with the alpha Pokémon waiting in the Hall of Origin for the next cycle to begin. Wars quelled, prophecies fulfilled, heroes risen and fallen, yet the egg's shadow lingers, promising rebirth from any abyss. We've traced the threads from void-born spark to meteor-scarred earth, from primal seas to tower flames, but each revelation only deepens the enigma. And so, as your eyelids grow heavy under this canopy of stars and sagas, know that this lore for sleep is an echo of the songs sung to Arceus at the dawn of time. Lullabies from the first worshippers, harmonizing knowledge, emotion, and will into the fabric of dreams. Let them carry you into that next cycle, where balance holds, chaos stirs, and the progenitors watch from the unseen. Rest now in the heart of the eternal. What did you think of this journey? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this changed your perspective or taught you something new, consider subscribing for more mind-expanding content. And if you know someone who would find this as fascinating as you did, share it with them. These are the kind of conversations that matter.